Right. Roll call, please.
Vieira. Goods.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Dingfelder.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here. All right. Next up is item number 5.
Z 2060, it's a rezoning request for the property located at 3112 and 3116 West North A Street from RS 50 to RM 12. Defer to the Planning Commission.
All right, go ahead. Ms. Malone, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. 2060 is located in the Central Tampa Planning District. We are at West North A Street, just north of Kennedy Boulevard, and then we have Henderson Boulevard to the south, the intersection of West Kennedy and Henderson Boulevard. The pattern along West Kennedy Boulevard is commercial in nature, but it does transition further north of the subject site to a more residential pattern.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Just point of order. Do we have the petitioner on there available? I didn't want us to go through all this if she
Is
wasn't.
Elise Batzel, I believe, on the line? The applicant? Are you here on her behalf, sir?
Yes, I'm Kevin Reale here.
Okay.
Thank
Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Malone, go ahead.
Thank you.
No worries. The adopted future land use of the subject site is urban mixed use 60. On the subject site, this would actually allow up to 43 dwelling units or commercial uses. That is the identified uses that are allowed on the subject site. So the request before you today is compatible with the surrounding development pattern, and it will provide for an appropriate transition from commercial uses along West Kennedy Boulevard to the single-family detached housing to the north. The RM12 district provides a range of housing options for Tampa's population. The subject site is also located in an area with access to transit and employment, and is supporting the comprehensive plan policies. I would just point out again that the subject site is urban mixed use 60 that allows for up to 60 dwelling units to the acre, and that the request before you is below what can be considered on the subject site. Due to that intersection at Kennedy and Henderson, as we can see on the future land use map, it does transition a little bit further north on the block here to provide that support for the intersection. But again, this is urban mixed use 60 in the purple, and then residential 10, which is single family detached, typically is to the north in that orange color. And so we did find this consistent. That completes my presentation, and I am available for questions. Thanks.
Any questions from council members?
Yes.
Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you. Ms. Malone or Mary, did we have this rezoning in front of us last year on the same exact parcel? And if so, okay,
I don't have that request before me, but I know that it did come before you in 2019.
okay. All right, I'll have Mary talk to us about that as well. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
no
Thank
problem.
you. All right. Applicant? I'm
Sir,
sorry,
can I make my
Mary
presentation?
Samaniego.
Thank you. Mary Samaniego. Again, the property is located at 3112 and 3116 West North A Street. It's a Euclidean rezoning, so they request this from RS 50 to be rezoned to RM 12. The 32,000 square foot property is located 3 lots to the east of the West North A Street, North Matanzas Avenue intersection. The property is currently occupied by detached single-family residence constructed in 1986. It is surrounded by detached residential residences to the to the west and north in the RS 50 zoning district, commercial uses to the east and south in the CG zoning district. The property is also located in the West Tampa overlay and subject to statutory requirements of section 27-1241.
Thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Oh, go ahead.
I can't speak and use
Oh,
Elmo at
okay,
the
okay,
same
no
time,
problem. Go ahead.
unfortunately. There's a zoning map on your, on the Elmo for your review. Again, it's half a block north of Kennedy Boulevard. All of Kennedy Boulevard is zoned commercial general. This property is requesting to be rezoned to RM12. There's commercial general on 2 of the 4 sides of this subject property. Mr. Dingfelder, to answer your question that you had asked, this site was the subject of a denied application, REZ 1907. They were asking to be rezoned to RM16. The current request before you is to be rezoned to RM12. So that's less of a density that they're requesting today.
It's what?
Less density. They were asking to go to RM16, which is 16 dwelling units per acre. Now they're asking to go to RM12, which is 12 dwelling units per acre.
So how does that equate to units on this particular parcel?
If this application were to be approved, a maximum of 8 dwelling units could be constructed under the current code of the RM12.
And last time,
I don't have that calculation with me.
okay. And the council definitively rejected a multifamily project on this same parcel a year ago?
The previous application to RM16 was denied. The REZ 19107 was one of the 2 parcels that's under consideration tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that conclude the presentation?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much. Have you been sworn in, sir? I know you were outside, correct?
No, I was inside. I've been sworn.
You were?
yes.
Okay. Go ahead. Please state your name.
I'd like to use the Elmo here. For the record, Kevin Reale, 401 East Jackson Street for the applicant. I also have printed copies of the presentation. They went straight from the printer to my sanitized hands.
Very good.
So the request today is for Euclidean rezoning. A similar request was brought on the property in 2019, as was recently discussed. The key point of the presentation that I'm going to focus on here, so I'll go through quickly since we have already identified that council has seen much of this before, but starting with the block composition, the reason I want to use the Elmo here is to point out some of the important characteristics of the block itself. So there's a single-family residence here, and there's a single-family residence here. The remainder of the block is commercial. And so when we put that into a color coding here, you can see that all of the bright yellow is commercial. The 2 single-family RS50 lots are here, and then this is the subject property that's requesting to go to RM12. As already discussed, the UMU future land use category is a rather intense category. We're not seeking to get much of the available density from this category. However, it is noteworthy that this is at the intersection of Kennedy and Henderson, and that this is a deliberate change in the map to accommodate the extra intensity at this intersection. In the existing zoning here, RS50, you have commercial general on two sides, but then the composition of the block as shown is mostly commercial. Testimony at the last hearing came primarily from Oakford Park. We expect some testimony from those neighbors today. And the discussion there was how the makeup of the neighborhood to the north is primarily single-family detached residential. We understand that to the north, it is primarily single-family detached residential. However, the compatibility and consistency goes both ways. And we see that this property on one side has a heavy commercial, I shouldn't say heavy, excuse me, a large commercial area of use to the south, and then single-family to the north. And so what we're proposing here is low, medium, multifamily density to act as a transitional use. The only thing to note here that hasn't already been discussed is 8 units are allowed, but also this is the minimum density that can be requested in this land use category. Planning Commission staff found this consistent, Land Development Services found this consistent with the LDC. The previous application was denied based on policies 9.1.2, policy 9.3, which I believe was meant to be objective 9.3, and design. It's important to note here that we're not proposing any design elements to this as it's Euclidean. And we also have reduced the request to RM12 so that the maximum number of units that can be developed is 8, which is the minimum that the future land use category allows. Of note from the comprehensive planning staff, that expert staff reported 11 land use objectives supported by the application and 16 land use policies. But most importantly, for the purposes here, the policies mentioned and the objectives mentioned in the denial in 2019 are both shown in this staff report as consistent based on those same policies. Land use policy 1.2.8, which was not mentioned in the staff report, also promotes mixed-use density housing with a variety of housing options, which would support the comprehensive plan very well in this transitional use area. So you've heard me mention that the zoning request is more consistent than the existing zoning and the minimum that can be requested on this. And so this is the Land Development Code provision that identifies that. So for compatibility purposes, it's possible for RS50 to exist here, but for rezoning purposes, the RM12 rezoning is the minimum that can be requested in UMU 60. And so this makes this really unique, and I just heard council have a long discussion with the previous applicant and discuss similar Euclidean rezonings, and I know that Euclidean rezoning was an issue when this was heard in 2019. This is unique because the request is more consistent than what exists there today. And so whereas a rezoning is often, right, the purpose is to get a higher and better use of the property, it's not often that the zoning requested is more consistent, and that's what we have today. Massing in bulk was a concern at the last hearing. The massing in bulk of RM12 and RS50 are identical. 50-foot minimum lot width, minimum lot area, side setback, building height are all identical. The setbacks are different, but what we have in RM12 is a larger front setback and a smaller rear setback such that the buildable area is exactly the same. What's also important is that the front setback is higher in RM12, which means the setback would be further from the single-family residential to the north and closer to the commercial, which would also make this more compatible with the surrounding zoning and land uses. Also, talking massing, if you're standing at the subject property and you look north, this is your view. So the area is primarily single-family detached to the north. However, it has been slowly redeveloping. And so the massing view you have here is a larger than 3,500 square foot house on a 50-foot lot, which has massing which looks similar to townhomes. If we slide over slightly to the east and we look north on that block, you can see that entire block has been redeveloped on the west side. And you can see how the massing of those structures would be consistent with a low-medium multifamily development. If you pan to the right slightly, you can see across the street. Now, these are the existing homes. They are of smaller scale, smaller mass. However, those are the older homes. And so the immediate rezoning, the immediate lots near the requested rezoning are consistent with the changing trend of development in the neighborhood, and the larger mass structures are the ones that are the immediate neighbors across of North A Street. This is just to identify the commercial use to the east. Again, want to reemphasize here that compatibility is to the entire area. And so we expect to hear evidence from the neighbors that the character of the neighborhood to the north is single-family detached, and we understand that. But what we're proposing here is a transitional use between the commercial property to the south, the heavy commercial corridor of Kennedy at the intersection of Henderson that then shifts to single-family. Another very big concern of the opponents that we've heard is the fear of creep. What we're requesting today is not possible anywhere else in Oakford Park, except for the neighboring property just to the west and then a couple down to the east. Everything else in Oakford Park is R10, and as this board knows, that would require a land use change. A land use change, as this council also knows, requires that a legislative action be taken. Today, we're under the quasi-judicial standard. The legislative action would give this council the power, in most circumstances, to deny an application to change the character of the neighborhood to the north. We're not asking to change the character of the neighborhood. We're asking to build something more consistent than what exists today, and we're asking to do that under the comprehensive plan that is already identified in Tampa. And the only way for that creep to change would be for this council to take action. It was also requested at the previous rezoning, why isn't this a planned development? These are 4 standard rectangular 50-foot lots. It's not common to suggest that a PD is not the compatible route, but your land development code says that PDs are for unique conditions, design exceptions, or a mix of uses. We don't have enough space to mix the uses properly. We're not requesting any design flexibility. We'll have to follow buffers, setbacks, parking, everything that the code requires in the Euclidean rezoning. The land development code also says that development that would not otherwise be provided for or allowed under general zoning districts are the type of site plan rezoning districts, or site plan rezoning applications. In this situation, we're not asking for anything special. We're asking for something that's specifically allowed under the RM12, and that will be, the intent is to build 4 duplexes. That may or may not come to pass because we have to re-engage with the builder after the previous denial. So we're not going to say that that is not, it's not possible that would change. But anything that would change would still be consistent and compatible with what's around based on what's been built recently and what exists to the south. The conclusion overall is there's expert testimony from your staff of compatibility and consistency. There's expert testimony that identifies the reasons why the previous denial is consistent with this application. Evidence from the LDC and pictures that show the massing is consistent with what's nearby. Evidence of a proper transitional use, and evidence that a PD's rezoning would be inappropriate. And as you all are aware, creep would require action by this council. Actually, at this time, I'd like to cross-examine the Planning Commission staff member, if I could, please, Ms. Malone.
I'm available.
Ms. Malone, in your expert opinion, is the requested zoning of RM12 more consistent than the existing zoning of RS50 for the subject site?
I would say that it is more in getting closer to the long-term development pattern that is anticipated under the urban mixed-use 60 future land use designation.
Thank you. I'll save any discussion regarding burden shift for rebuttal if necessary and ask the council if they have any questions.
Thank you very much. Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're getting sidekicked. You didn't have to look at me. Yes, sir. And I didn't catch your name. I know we've met before.
Kevin Reale.
Okay. I just want the record to be 100% clear. Right now, you've got 4 lots on this parcel, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And the current zoning is RS50.
Correct.
Okay. The page that you had up, and maybe you can put it up again,
Yes, sir.
it's the graphic that shows the comp plan UMU. Here it is.
The comp plan map.
This one here.
This is actually from the Land Development Code. So this is the Land Development Code interpreting the comprehensive plan.
Right. I thought what I heard you say, which I want to make sure we're on the same page, Kevin, is that the RS50 is inconsistent with the UMU 60, and you know that somehow or another the city is forcing you to have it rezoned. Okay, and I don't think that's the case, and I'm sure that's not what you meant. You have a category that today you could build 4 single-family homes, correct?
Correct. And if I could, Mr. Dingfelder,
So your point was that perhaps under the comp plan, there's a more desirable category, the RM12 or the RM16, and Ms. Malone spoke to that in terms of the UMU 60 being a higher density. But I just wanted to make clear for the record and anybody that might be looking at it in the future that you have the opportunity not to rezone the property and build 4 single-family homes right now.
correct. So what the intent of my testimony was to reflect there is that the zoning request is more consistent. And if I was here requesting the same property to become RS50, the Land Development Code says that that rezoning is to be discouraged. So the comprehensive plan is not what's calling out the discouragement, it's your Land Development Code, sir.
Okay. And I had one other question that I scribbled down here. Let me see. Hold on 1 second. Oh, this was about whether or not you should be here with a PD or not.
Yes, sir.
Here's my problem with that, is you said it's our intent to build 4, duplexes that would have space between each one. You'd have a 50-foot lot, 5 or 7 feet on either side before you get to the next set of townhome duplexes. And you showed some pictures of them, right?
No, sir, that's the existing
Yes.
development in the neighborhood.
No. You
Oh,
showed
yeah,
some
yeah.
pictures of some neighbors on North A that have that type of development.
So those they are across North A and going up Woodland. Yes, sir.
Okay, nearby. But my point is because you're coming in Euclidean with the RM12, you could build this, if it was approved, you could build this as a single monolithic building, all right, with 8 units in it, without any break whatsoever in terms of the mass of the building. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's the benefit of a PD, because at least the neighborhood knows what they're getting.
Yes, sir, but your Land Development Code says that a PD is for situations where there's
No,
design flexibility
They're not
needed.
going to turn down your application for a PD on that basis. They accept virtually anybody who comes in with a PD request. The PD is a lot more expensive and more time-consuming. Thank you.
Yes, sir, but I also believe that it's also not evidence to deny a Euclidean rezoning based on that.
Thank you very much. Any
Thank you.
other council members with questions or comments at this time for the applicant? Hearing none. We go to public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this item, item number 5? Is there anybody at the kiosk on the other side of this wall that wishes to speak on item number 5?
Eileen does strategy development and growth management. There is no one here to speak on this item.
Thank you. I believe we have 5 registered speakers.
That is correct, and we also receive written comments on this item.
Okay, if we can bring some of those registered speakers, we'll swear them in 3 at a time or whatever fits. I see.
Hello.
Yes, just a moment. All right. Can we-
Chair, I do want to announce, we have Mr. John Samaya. Samaha? Okay. We have you on, but you do not have video capability.
Well, I'm on my phone, so I'm not sure why not.
Mr. Chairman, Martin Shelby.
Yes, sir.
Just for your benefit, sir, and for the benefit of the public, in order to accommodate the platform, go to meeting or go to webinar, it does not allow the use of a smartphone, and those are set forth in the requirements as provided in the instructions at tampagov.net/citycouncil. And unfortunately, for legal reasons, the determination has been made for you to be able to participate virtually. We do need to have video capability in order for us to take your testimony, sir.
Okay, so we have Ashley Kaufman, Andrew, and Mrs. Echeverria. Mrs. Echeverria, do you have a microphone hooked up now?
Yes, can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yes, we can. We're gonna swear all three of you in. If you could raise
Mr.
your right
Chairman,
hands. Yes?
I hate to interrupt you, sir.
Yes?
You see me going in and out. I have a situation in my district. I
Okay.
need to leave again and speak with Representative Hart and the commander of District 3, so you have to pardon me.
Okay, no problem. All right, please raise your right hand. We'll swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm you would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right,
I
we'll
do.
begin with Ashley, Andrew, and then Mrs. Echeverria. Go ahead, Ashley, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on this matter. So I know we heard a lot about single-family homes and neighborhoods most recently in the last agenda item, so I won't harp too much on that, but a little bit about me. I moved into our beautiful home. Actually, it was on the image that Mr. Reale provided. It's the blue home, the second one in on North Woodland Avenue, which we are all single-family homes. We moved in early this summer, and one of the main reasons why we chose this area was because it was a single-family home. We actually looked in the 33629 area, and unfortunately, there were a lot of mixed areas, a duplex next door. And as a young couple looking to grow our family, we wanted to make sure that we had safety. Something specific I wanted to call out about Mr. Reale's presentation. I know that this isn't necessarily a legal hearing, but the components that he presented, the south is actually all commercial, but 160 feet north, which I believe is where this plan may be taking place and people may enter from a duplex perspective, is actually all residential. And by 160 feet, that's my front door to where this property line is. I think the biggest component, Councilman Dingfelder, you mentioned it specifically, the biggest issue that I have was as a residential member of this neighborhood is that there are no plans. I don't understand what the plans are in general. They've changed multiple times since last hearing. They've moved from, it could be 4 duplexes with 8 units. It could be less than that. It could be some sort of variation. So I think the biggest concern for someone living in this area, a young couple looking to raise our family on a nice, quiet neighborhood, truly, our neighborhood runs north, south. We don't really have much traffic coming from Kennedy or McDill, just based on where we're located is. What are the traffic patterns going to be? Where are the entrances to these duplexes? Because based on the presentation, the entrance is North Ed, not Kennedy, like the commercial property as shown. So again, just some understanding of what these duplexes would be really beneficial for the people in this area, Oakford Park, to understand what the developers and the individuals who own this property are trying to achieve. So I thank you for your time. I'm here. I will stay on if there are any questions for myself. Again, I'm 160 feet, 204 North Woodland Avenue, Ashley Kaufman for the record.
Thank you very much. Next up,
Question?
yes, Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you. Ms. Kaufman? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Hi, Ms. Kaufman. Quick question. You've lived there for a period of time, how long?
Just under a few months, so we moved in August.
Okay, so over the last couple of months, and even before that, I guess, you've had an opportunity to get to know the neighborhood?
Yes, yes, sir. That's actually one of the main reasons that we chose to purchase in this area. Our neighborhood is, I don't want to call it unique because everybody in Tampa is unique in their own way, but for us personally, my husband is a Tampa native. I've been here
Okay,
about 10
so
years, and
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
So my question is in regard to the character of your neighborhood in terms of being a single-family neighborhood, mostly detached. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just tell me if I'm right or wrong. Single-family neighborhood, mostly detached homes. I guess on occasion there might be some attached units, but they're just a duplex in a townhome form. Is that correct? Mostly single-family?
Not on my block. I know the area is 85% single-family home with multi-unit, I believe is 8.
Okay.
A total of 8, and that is nowhere near me.
Okay. And then are you aware or familiar with any buildings that might be larger? In this case, potentially 4 units together or 8 units together. Is there anything like that in your neighborhood?
Not at all, sir. My neighborhood has, we have about 8 single-family homes with 2 additional single-family homes at the north end of North Woodland being built, which is a nice welcome, and the smaller single-family homes across the street. My entire street directly north of this property line are all single-family homes, no multi-unit family, no attached duplexes.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is Andrew. You've been sworn in. Go ahead, sir. You have 3 minutes. And you're muted. Unmute yourself.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Awesome. I'm the president of Oakford Park, and I've heard numerous complaints about this rezoning. Last year we were before you guys. We brought all of our objections, and you guys rejected this. Our main complaint here, and I'd love to share my screen if I may, from the GIS system, 85% of our community is single-family homes. We're surrounded, our border is surrounded by commercial. So, of course, it's skewed a little bit. I don't know if you guys are able to see it.
Yes,
but
we
we
can.
have a total parcel of 758 parcels, and 648 of those are single-family homes, okay? We really truly believe that this does not fit the fabric of our community, okay? And, to the point that they were making as to, it's commercial and it's gonna help transition. Well, there's a few people, as he mentioned, on that block that already have single-family homes. Why are they so opposed to just building 4 single-family homes? A few of these lots have been vacant for years, and they've chosen not to build anything until now. And we really, again, truly believe that our neighborhood is a single-family home community. We've asked the developer multiple times to provide us with plans, and what are you gonna build here? Are these gonna be rentals? Are these gonna be owned units? They do not provide any information whatsoever to help us. Only last week, the first time in a year, did the attorney reach out to our neighborhood to wanna have a conversation. Okay, it's a little late in the game. Most people who come to us early in the conversation, we can have a nice conversation about it, and then we can come to council and support the project. But it's hard for us to support a project here that we know so little about, and quite frankly, it feels like they're hiding something. It's the second time they've come in front of you, and we asked council to reject this project on the basis that it does not fit our community. It's not a single-family home, and we don't believe that just because the map changed over the years, that today it's more, compliant with if it were rezoned today, but that's not what it is. The gentleman that lives next door should be speaking. If he hasn't, I know he sent an email. He's totally against this project, and his home is right next door to this, and it's a single-family home. So I thank you for your time, and I encourage you to vote no.
Thank you very much. Next up, Mrs. Echeverria, go ahead.
Yes, now I have voice. Thank you so much. We really do believe this rezoning would be so negative for our beautiful blooming, we have second generation people coming in, all these young people, and they're loving it, and they have tons of kids, and they play, and they have dogs, they all walk dogs. It's great. It's not like it seemed from the first gentleman's description. And also allowing this rezoning would negatively impact the future by encouraging developers to buy single-family homes and replace them with multi-family, multi-story housing. An example of the destruction of a single-family neighborhood is West Shore Palms. Single-family homeowners' ability to sell their homes to anyone other than multi-family developers is severely hindered. And to the east of Oakford Park, the same thing's happening in Armory Garden with the associated traffic and crowding of so many multi-family dwellings. All this is a wonderful area. We're so convenient to airports, to shopping, to downtown. It is like, I think the people who want to build a multi-family dwelling, their mouths must be watering. But I'm certainly speaking in opposition of rezoning the property that is described 3116 North A to multifamily zoning. I'm very, very against it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker is John. Were you sworn in, sir?
No, sir.
If you would raise your right hand and we'll swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm you would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is John Samaha, and my property is located directly on the east side of the subject property on North A Street. I'm asking you tonight to strongly consider not approving this rezoning request, as you did less than 12 months ago. I'm not sure why they're coming back again to rezone the same thing. I understand that they're asking for fewer units. The last time they appeared before you guys, they were saying that they were only going to put 8 units then, and it was denied. This rezoning was scheduled and then abruptly canceled. The meeting was a few months ago, and for this meeting tonight, I received no notifications whatsoever. I'm not sure why that is. Only a neighbor letting me know a couple days ago that this was happening. I've owned and operated my business here in Tampa for 33 years and have done so on the North A Street location for the last 27 years. Oakford Park has been a great location that has allowed my business to prosper. And I believe the development pattern in the neighborhood is great because it currently holds to single family homes. There's been a great influx of new families coming in, and I agree, 15 years ago or 20 years ago in this neighborhood, you wouldn't see young families pushing strollers, walking dogs, kids riding bikes, and enjoying the neighborhood. And it's been a great influx, and good things are happening in this neighborhood. The commercial development that is there and surrounds it is mostly on Kennedy Boulevard, and that's where it belongs. The new parking lot that was able to be put in behind the old state vacuum building, I believe is a eyesore in the neighborhood, and I'm not sure why they were able to tear down a house and put in a parking lot, but that happened. My business is a video production company, and we produce broadcast commercials and corporate videos. We record on an almost daily basis in our studio, and the construction that would happen in a big development like that, along with the additional use of 8 families and maybe 16 cars and all that, especially using the alley, would cripple us. One of the reasons I purchased there was because it was a very quiet neighborhood. I oppose this project because of the density. It's been said, what's wrong with putting 4 single-family homes there? I would be in favor of that. We already have more traffic congestion, water, sewage, drainage, and stormwater issues than we can handle. Why would we want to increase those? Currently, Oakford Park is doing its best to keep these kinds of projects at bay, but we need your help. Commercial projects are booming all over Tampa now, but please let this neighborhood hold its single-family integrity. I thank you and strongly urge you to deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
33 years, Mr. Samaha, you're getting old.
Yeah, are we all?
All right, do we have Timothy Healy on the line as well?
Chair, he is on the line, but he's having issues with his video capability. He's logged on a tablet, but it's not allowing him to turn on his video.
Okay.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, Martin
Yes.
Shelby.
Yes, sir.
I've been informed that he had forwarded an email to City Council. My understanding, if that's the case, then it's been uploaded to SIRE, it's been distributed to Council.
Yes.
And he should know that it is then made part of this record.
Very good. Thank you very much. We now have, I did ask if there was anybody at the kiosk or anybody here, so that clears public comment. We now have rebuttal, sir.
If we do that, Council, just a reminder, if there's any more questions before the rebuttal, now would be the time to do it.
Any questions from council members? Councilman? No? All right, go ahead, sir. Yes.
In light of the discussion, we believe this application to be consistent, and the public comment discusses the residential property to the north. And I do agree with the public that the area to the north is single-family residential, but the back of this property abuts commercial property. And the gentleman that spoke, his property is directly to the east, and he enjoys a commercial zoning on the same block. The applicant here today is not a builder. He's trying to work with a builder who the applicant does not have the ability to create plans for this. But in light of the questions that I'm getting, we will request to continue and switch to a PD. And we don't know if that's feasible, but we'll see if it's feasible and then come back to the council if they'll grant that request.
Is there a particular date you're looking for, Kevin?
We have talked with staff, and I believe the March 11th, Mary?
March 11th at 6 p.m.
I'll move to continue to March 11th, 6 p.m.
We have a motion to continue to March 11th at 6 p.m. from Councilman Dingfelder, second from Councilmember Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And Mr. Chairman?
Motion carried with Viera being absent at vote.
And Mr. Chairman, again, Martin Shelby, I just want to make a comment to the person, the speaker who said they did not get any notice. The legal notice requirement was fulfilled. This is now a continued public hearing. It's now been continued again, and there will be no mailed or posted notice with regard to that date. So again, if the clerk could just repeat that, that is the notice that is now going out to the public that this hearing is continued to that date.
March 11th, 2021 at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Ms. Samaniego.
Mary Samaniego, the next item is REZ 2045. It's a rezoning request for the property located at 3154 and 3200 West Euclid Avenue from RS60 to plan development for detached single-family residence. I believe that the applicant is Mr. Michelini, and he is present. I defer to the Planning Commission for their presentation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Malone.
Thank you, Mary. Can I have the ability to share my screen, please? Thank you. And bear with me for just a moment. It worked perfectly the first time. Okay, 2045 is located in the South Tampa Planning District. It is West Euclid Avenue, and then we have the Selma Expressway in the vicinity as well, near the subject site. This is a very much a single-family detached neighborhood that surrounds the subject site. The adopted future land use is residential 10. We see that that's the pattern within the surrounding area. This request would allow for compatible infill development within the area. This is an area that is planned for 10 dwelling units to the acre, based on this underlying future land use designation, with the planned development proposing 4 single-family residences. This would be an overall density for the subject site at 10 units per acre, meeting that future land use density that we anticipate under the residential 10 future land use. And it is consistent with our city policies on encouraging new housing for Tampa's growing population. And that concludes my presentation, and we've had it consistent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mary?
Thank you, Mary Samaniego. Again, the applicant is requesting a plan development for detached single-family residential uses. He's proposing 3 development lots, which I have the site plan up on the Elmo if you want to, there we go. 3 single-family lots. The property is kind of bifurcated by a street that the entire PD includes all that is shown, just to be clear. The 2 existing lots are the western lot is 86 feet in width on West Euclid Avenue and 108 feet in width on South Linwood Avenue, and then the eastern portion is 104 feet of width on Euclid and 108 on Linwood. The property currently contains 2 single-family residences which will be demolished, and the surrounding development pattern is RS60 zoning. As indicated on the site plan, Lot 1 would be 9,240 square feet. The front setback would be 20 feet. The corner and the side setbacks would be 7 each, and the rear setback would be 15 feet with a maximum overall height of 40 feet. Lots 2 and 3, lots 2 would be 4,640 square feet, 20-foot front setback, 7 on the side and corner, and 15 feet in the rear, and a 40-foot height as well. And then the remaining lot to the south is Lot 3, would be 5,616 square feet, a 25-foot setback, 7-foot corner and side setbacks, 20-foot rear, and a maximum height of 40 feet. Because they are requesting a change from a RS60 to create lots less than the 60-foot lot width. I'm going to take this mic with me. There. We did the analysis of the different lot width patterns in the immediate area. The subject property is in black. As you can see, the lots that are less than 60 feet wide are in the gray or blue colors, which are indicated here. Here's the subject property. So as you can see, in the immediate area, most of the lots are greater than 60 feet wide. One moment, please. The overall analysis area included 298 total zoning lots. 212 or 74% of those lots were developed with a lot width of 60 feet or greater, and only 77 or 26% have been developed with a width of less than 60 feet. Pursuant to a review of the existing development pattern, the subject block contains 50 zoning lots. 48 or 96% of those lots have a width of 60 feet or greater, and only 4% have been developed with a width of less than 60 feet. Similarly, the 3100 block of East Euclid Avenue on both sides of the street contained 42 zoning lots. 100% of these lots have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 0 have been developed with less than 60 feet in width. The block faced of East Euclid Avenue contains 24 zoning lots, and again, 100% of those lots are 60 feet or greater, and none are developed less than 60 feet. Saying that, the development review, Planning and Development staff found that inconsistent with the development pattern. If City Council chooses to approve this application, there are changes between first and second reading from my department as well as Natural Resources, and the applicant is only requesting one waiver to 27284.2.5 F4 to request the removal of a non-hazardous grand tree at 35-inch due to the proposed construction, and we have a representative of Natural Resources present if you have any questions for him. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Mr. McAleen.
Council, I don't remember if you were asking to be sworn in on each application or not. If that's the case, I haven't been sworn.
No. You were sworn in, and we just did it all at once.
Just want to check before I proceed.
Yes, sir.
This project was continued several months ago and converted to a PD, which was a little more sensitive to the neighborhood. We've been meeting with the neighborhood representatives for at least 6 months on this project, and I wanted to go through a couple things. There are some mitigating conditions here that warrant consideration from the City Council for approval. And let me just show you a couple things. The petitioner is going to be living and developing a lot here, which we removed from the petition. It's immediately south of what we're calling Lot 1. And they're going to build their own home there. So they're living in the neighborhood, they're staying there, and and this project will involve removing the two properties that are here and here, the existing structures. Now, let me show you show you what we're facing here. These properties currently are oriented toward Euclid, and it's the on-ramp for the Crosstown Expressway. This is a view looking north, immediately north of the properties that are being petitioned for rezoning. This is a view looking to the west, and you have an extremely large volume of traffic that occurs along Euclid, both on the off-ramp that's slightly on the other side of the crosstown and the on-ramp that's directly across the street from it. The red dot indicates one of the homes that's going to be removed, but you can see the proximity of the crosstown, and this side is one that we're proposing to develop for 2 homes. This side we're proposing to develop for 1 home, and you can see the on-ramp for the crosstown right there. This is looking south at Euclid and Linwood, and again, the houses are currently oriented toward Euclid, and we're trying to remove them and orient them the other direction. This is the view looking to the east, and it's estimated by the Transportation Department that we have over 12,000 trips per day on this segment of Euclid. And what we're trying to do is to get the traffic off of Euclid and move it on to Linwood. And in that regard, we're proposing, if you look at these red lines here, a 6-foot buffer wall along Euclid, and then an entry feature that we've been working with the neighborhood association. It'll be constructed at our cost and on our property, not in the right-of-way. And here, I'm going to show you a couple of examples of what we're proposing. And the neighborhood association, when we talked to them, they'd indicated that they would work with us and then come back to us and tell us which of these various alternatives they'd like to see. Now, these are just representative of what we're proposing.
Are you going to call it Michelini Heights, Stephen? Is that it?
Bayshore beautiful, sir.
Oh, okay.
What's wrong with Michelini Heights?
But the outside, I mean, that's an important point here, is that we want to segregate that single-family area that is now completely deluged with traffic noises and cars. It's a heavy volume and heavy accident area. This is another option. Another option. And then one more option. The structures are proposed to be similar to this, and we've included that in our rezoning package. Go on again. There we go. Some important things to remember that when you go to a PD, that you have to acknowledge that there are changing needs and that there are mitigating factors for the two lots to be slightly less in terms of the width. But they are being turned and reoriented toward Linwood and away from Euclid. And the code does encourage flexible development and some things that reduce the transportation needs and the volume. So this will take some of that direct traffic off of Euclid and put it onto Linwood in a protected area with the buffer wall, the landscaping, and the entry feature. We are trying to promote a more livable and working and environmental condition here by establishing a new orientation and also a more flexible and attractive entryway. We're trying to promote the more desirable living and working conditions. We're also promoting architectural features that we're orienting toward Euclid that don't exist currently. We're promoting the retention and use of the area and turn it into a viable and productive development. The design is a little bit on the unique side. We went to the PD plan so that we could control exactly what happened and how it happened. We are saving a number of trees by going to that PD plan. And the ability to construct and develop this project is dependent upon the granting of these waivers that we have listed. The only one waiver that's in there, and it is in harmony with the with the adopted plan and general intent and purposes of this code and the comprehensive plan. It does promote and protect the health, safety, and welfare of the adjacent properties. And I said the owner will live immediately adjacent to this on the south of one of the lot on the west side. Substantial justice will be done by granting this. As I said, we've spent a lot of time with the neighborhood association working out these issues. I placed a letter from the homeowner association into the record. I'll be happy to read it if you like. They wished us well and indicated that they were not taking positions on land use matters at this time, but they did say best of luck in your ventures. Look forward to seeing you what comes of them in the coming months, and we will continue to work with them. We started working out with Chelsea Johnson when she was in the neighborhood and as a leader of that neighborhood association, and we spent a lot of time visiting the site and trying to orient these properties. With respect to the two properties on the east side that now will be facing Linwood, the only ones that would be adversely affected would be the adjacent property owner, which would be those two properties and not any external, any other property owner. The adjacent property immediately to the south of this, they would enjoy the same setbacks as would previously have been allowed there, which would be 7 feet. We believe that we've developed a strong plan that mitigates any adverse conditions that would be created, that the staff had pointed out. As I said, we spent a great deal of time trying to think this thing through and come back with a legitimate and acceptable project. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. we would respectfully request your approval.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, just a quick question. You mentioned Chelsea Johnson. Have you met with John Godwin or the new board?
Yeah, the letter that I just read was from him.
Okay, thank you.
And it's in the package, it's in a cella.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Dingfelder? No? Councilman Goods? Anybody else? No? All right, thank you. Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 6? I don't think we have anybody registered, correct?
Correct.
Do we have anybody at the kiosk? Anybody in the public?
Eileen Rosario, there's no one here at the kiosk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to close if there's no other questions?
So moved.
Wait, Councilman Dingfelder.
No, I just had one comment before we close.
Go ahead.
I guess I could hold it for the motion. I just want the record to reflect that tonight I agreed with everything Steve McLeany said. I think this particular stretch of Euclid is very difficult. As you drive up and down there, you can't help but notice that these homes, those 2 homes that you showed the pictures of, there's nothing wrong with older homes, but they clearly appear to have been rentals for many years. They're not improving. Probably in part because not only is Euclid busy, but also the entrance across the street doesn't provide a lot of aesthetic appeal. So I think in this case, the neighborhood seems to have no objection, and neither do I.
Thank you very much. We had a motion to close from Councilman Citro, correct?
Correct.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have a substitute ordinance to be read. Councilmember Goods, would you like to read item number 6?
Yes, sir. REZ 20-45. Substitute orders being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3154 and 3200 West Euclid Avenue in the district classification, in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS 60, residential single family, to PD, planned development, residential single family detached, providing an effective date.
Do we have a second? Second from Councilman Dingfelder, roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, before you do take the roll call vote, does that involve a revision sheet as well? And does that include the revision sheet? And if there's anything you want to add with regard to the general language that would add to the record of this ordinance? It's item number 6.
I move an ordinance, RAZ 2045, and direct revision shown on the revision sheet as the applicant has met its burden of proof, provide competent substantial evidence that development as conditioned as shown on the site plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code, and adopt the findings and reasoning of city and planning commission's staff reports.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And is there a second still, Councilman Dingfelder?
Second. Second agrees with that motion.
Very good, roll call vote.
Dingfelder?
Yes.
Goods?
Yes.
Maniscalco?
Yes.
Vieira? Citro?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
And Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 3rd at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Item number 8.
Thank you.
Mary Samaniego, Development and Growth Management. Item number 8 is REZ 2031. It's a rezoning request for the property located at 9306 North Armenia Avenue from RS 60 residential single family to planned development for medical office and business professional office. I believe the applicant intended to attend virtually.
Okay, we have the applicant on the line. Put him on, but is that it?
Jennifer Malone with the Planning Commission. Should I go ahead or hold on?
One moment.
Yeah, are you the applicant, sir?
Okay, I'm
wait,
so
wait,
sorry.
not
It's my
yet. Go ahead. Yeah.
misunderstanding.
No problem.
I deferred then to the Planning Commission.
All right, one more presentation, sir, and then I'll call you up. Ms. Malone, go ahead.
Is it for the case?
Yes. Okay. REZ 2031 is in the Forest Hills neighborhood. The request is for an office, as Mary had stated, it's within the University Planning District. This is the subject site. A portion of the subject site is located within unincorporated Hillsborough County. That would be this back portion here. This is North Armenia and West Bush, and then the subject site. The future land use of the subject site in the city is residential 20. This is a Hillsborough, the light yellow is a Hillsborough County future land use designation, but the portion within the city is residential 20. So this use within the residential 20 future land use designation needs to meet locational criteria. And the Planning Commission has reviewed this and found that it does meet locational criteria. One of the criteria is that the use has to be located on a collector or higher roadway designated a collector or higher. Armenia is an arterial roadway. So we did find that the overall development is comparable and compatible to the existing development pattern and wouldn't cause any adverse impacts. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do my presentation here. I think it'll be easier for the exhibits.
Sure, go ahead.
Again, Mary Samaniego, the applicant is proposing to reuse an existing building located at North Armenia, which is existing 3,131 square foot building to allow for medical office and business professional office uses. The property is currently used as a retail use. The site is 0.31 acres and is located one lot to the north of the North Armenia Avenue, West Bush Boulevard intersection. The property is surrounded by retail and office uses to the east, north, and south in the RO and Commercial General Zoning District. And as Jennifer stated, the Hillsborough County jurisdictional line is immediately to the west. The westernmost portion of the site is and that's an open space. The applicant is proposing setbacks of 10 foot north, south, 40 foot to the east, and 20 feet to the west. Maximum building height would be 35 feet. Based on the two uses, the most intensive use for parking is medical office. A total of 18 parking spaces would be required, and the applicant, because it is existing site, the existing building would remain, as well as the existing parking lot with some restriping. He could only provide 14 parking spaces that met code. Therefore, there's a waiver request to 27% parking reduction to go down from 18 parking spaces required down to 14. Again, because of the site constraints trying to put a new use into an existing site, there is a second parking related waiver to reduce the drive aisle width in one location from 24 feet down to 23.5 feet, which is only a half a foot difference. Other than that, thirdly, again, restating what I'm saying before, because we're working with an existing site, there's simply not enough available green space on the site to do all mitigation trees as well as required trees. So the third and final waiver is to contribute to the tree trust fund for the mitigation and required trees. There are some minor changes between first and second reading, so I will kindly remind you to please include your revision sheet in your motion. But overall, the development review and compliance staff did find this inconsistent because of the parking reduction as well as the drive aisle width reduction. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none, go ahead, sir. Please state your name and begin with your presentation.
Okay, my name is Guillermo Santoya, and I'm the representative of the owner of the zipper property. And now we are trying to modify the zoning on this case. We are trying to move from an RS residential single family home to the PD that led us to make a medical office, a professional office in this case. And the intent is that this establishes a new professional office or medical office in this property that currently has a retail user sale. This portion of the Armenia has transformed from residential to commercial, and this property in this case is located in the frontier group between the city of Tampa and the Hillsborough County. We are applying for change the rezoning on this case with the deficit in the use of the parking lot. But just we want to be clear that the property next to this building in question have the same owner, and the deficit that we have it in the parking lot inside of this property, we can compensate with the usage of the property in the next side of that one, close to the Bush Boulevard.
All right. Any questions for the gentleman? Do we have anybody registered to speak on this item?
No one has registered to speak on this item.
Do we have anybody at the convention center at the kiosk to speak or here in the public?
Eileen Decided Development and Growth Management, there is no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody in the public wish to speak? Hearing none, are there any questions? Or a motion to close?
Second.
We have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Citro. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Councilman Dingfelder, would you mind reading item number 8, and don't forget to include the revision sheet?
Sure. I'll move the following ordinance presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 9306 North Armenia Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1, from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to PD, plan development, medical office, and business professional office, providing an effective date and including the changes outlined by staff in the staff report between first and second reading. I'm making this motion based upon the fact that I do believe they meet the criteria in the comprehensive plan, as well as in our zoning code, chapter 27, for the PD of this type.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call.
That's based upon the evidence that we heard tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Vieira. Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
And Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 3rd at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good evening. Next up, item number 10, Mayor Samaniego.
Item number 10 is REZ 2053. It's a rezoning request located at 413 South Melville Avenue. The request is to go from RM16 multifamily residential to plan development for attached single-family residential.
Jennifer Malone with your Planning Commission staff. This is located within the Central Tampa Planning District. It is located along South Melville Avenue. We have the Selman Expressway in the vicinity of the area and a variety of uses, everything from commercial uses to attached housing at slightly higher densities, and then we will see that reflected on the future land use map. The adopted future land use of the subject site is residential 35. That's this dark brown color, kind of right in the middle of the map. There's also community mixed use 35 that runs along Platt and Howard. That's where we have those commercial uses. There's residential 20 in the area as well, and then the community commercial 35 and some recreation open space. There's a lot in this area, but I would just state that this is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The plan development is proposing 4 single-family attached residences. That is an overall density for that site at 21.5 dwelling units per acre, which is consistent with the residential 35 and below the residential 35 future land use designation maximum density. We found that the plan development would be redeveloped within the existing street, block, and lot configuration of the neighborhood and is consistent with the comprehensive plan policies. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mary Samaniego. Again, this property is located at 413 South Melville Avenue. The existing building was constructed in 1987. The applicant is proposing to keep the existing building with the 4 units. When it was constructed in 1987, it was under the R3 zoning district, which was under your previous zoning code, chapter 43. When the current zoning code, which is chapter 27, was adopted in 1988, this property was rezoned to RM16. Unfortunately, for the property owner under the RM16 zoning district, the density factor is 2,723 square feet per unit. The subject property is 8,070 square feet, so with that density factor of 2723, that it only allows for 2 dwelling units by right. Therefore, 2 of the existing 4 dwelling units are non-conforming currently. However, the R35 future land use category, as Ms. Malone just presented, allows for 30 dwelling units per acre. So this rezoning application to a plan development would bring the 4 dwelling units into compliance with the density factor of 21 dwelling units per acre. The units are configured in a single building with all units having doors facing the south property line, which is not a public right-of-way, so that is the first waiver that the applicant is requesting, to have ground floor entrances per section 27-282.9 to face a side property line in lieu of a street right-of-way. Because again, we're working with an existing site and site constraint with the building. They are proposing the only way for the existing parking is the existing parking, and to bring it into compliance with the dimensional standards of the parking lot, they could only fit 6 on the property. So the second waiver that they're requesting is to go from the required 9 parking spaces, 2 per unit plus 1 guest spot, down to 6. That's the second waiver request that they're asking. The transportation staff did find this application inconsistent because of that parking reduction. The third waiver that they're requesting is a minor one, to allow for the refuse cans for the units to be in the side yard. They will be behind a fence, and they will be within enclosures as well, simply because there's no other location to put the solid waste enclosures than a side property. There are some minor changes between first and second reading from natural resources, but there are no other changes to any other department. But overall, the development review and compliance staff did find this inconsistent because of the parking reduction from 9 spaces down to 6. I'm available for any questions.
Do we have any questions? Hearing none. Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Steve Michelini. I'm here representing the petitioner at 413 South Melville. As you can see from the aerial photograph, the red dot is the existing structure, and it's surrounded by townhouses and other multifamily projects. As Mary pointed out, it was built in 1987, and then the code changed in 1988, making it non-conforming. So this is a photograph of the existing structure, and we're proposing to retain that, to vest it as built with all of the conditions that exist originally from this structure. So when we rezone that to PD, I mean, it wouldn't qualify for a straight rezoning. So we went to a PD to vest all of the existing conditions. But for the fact that the code changed, we wouldn't be here before you.
Mr. Michelini, are you aware of any opposition tonight?
No, sir.
Maybe we should check.
That's fine.
No, that's fine.
What did you say at the end?
I was just saying, he could reserve all this for rebuttal, perhaps, if there's opposition.
That's fine. I'm not aware of any objections. We do need the waivers as outlined by staff, and we're committing to making those adjustments between first and second reading.
I don't mean to be rude, but you're vesting in existing parcels. So.
Yes, sir. That's fine. I'll be happy to suspend my presentation.
So you're not enjoying this lengthy meeting? All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item, item number 10, REZ 20-53? Do we have anybody registered?
No one has registered to speak on this item, and the clerk's office did not receive any written comments on this item.
Do we have anybody at the kiosk?
Eileen Lozada, Development and Growth Management. There is no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, if there's no other questions, can we get a motion to close?
So moved.
We have a motion to close from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Councilman Carlson, would you mind reading item number 10?
Yes, sir. I'd like to move file number REZ 20-53, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 413 South Melville Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RM16 residential multifamily to PD plan development residential single-family attached, providing effective date.
Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Miranda.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, again, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, my apologies for interrupting. Again, that motion, Councilman Carlson, if you can, make reference to the revision sheet, I believe that is in there. And
Yes, so
also,
please add the revision sheet.
and also the language that has been provided with regard to item number 7 for you to please put into the record. Item number 10, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yes,
item
sir.
number 10, yeah. Yeah, just that I find that it's consistent with the Planning Commission findings and consistent with the staff report, consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land development code. It's, what do you call it, vesting an existing building.
Thank you.
All right. And the second was Miranda, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, roll call vote.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Booth,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera, Petro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried with Viera being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 3rd at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you.
Thanks. Number 11.
Mary Semeniego, Planning and Growth Management. This item is REZ 2056. It's a rezoning request at 3228 West Oakdale Avenue from RS50 to plan development for one detached single-family residential lot.
All right.
Jennifer Malone, with your planning commission staff, REZ, that should be a 2056, not 56. This is located in the Central Tampa Planning District. This is the subject site outlined in purple. Gandy Boulevard is out of frame, but it's to the south of the subject site. It's actually, these parcels right here are fronting Gandy Boulevard. So it's primarily single-family detached. As we move north of Gandy Boulevard, this community commercial 35 and the community mixed-use 35 are those designations that are along Gandy Boulevard. We reviewed the application and found no adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. This portion of West Oakdale Avenue has an existing density of 9.11 dwelling units per acre, which is that density that's anticipated under the residential tenant future land use designation. And we found that it would be moved in the same form as the rest of the neighborhood, and it would not cause any adverse impacts, and it would be consistent with that policy direction within the comprehensive plan. And that concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Semeniego again, Planning and Development. This property is located at 3228 West Oakdale Avenue. Again, they're requesting to rezone from RS50 to planned development. This is a unique situation. Here's the subject property in green. When the property to the immediate east was rezoned to PD in 2018 under case number REZ 1857, it was all in single ownership with the subject property. So this entire piece was owned by a single owner. When the two PD lots were, okay, so they did a PD on this property. When the PD lots were sold, so this PD was to create two single-family lots to outside parties, it in effect created the subject property of tonight's hearing, but it's not developable because it was not legally created. So your zoning code says that multiple lots, if they are substandard, if single ownership, they're considered one zoning lot. The property owner, again, back in 2018, came through and created a PD on this site. When he sold, which was legal, when he sold the two PD lots to outside parties, there became three separate owners for each one of the lots. Therefore, the subject property tonight is to establish this as a legally developable lot. Here is the configuration of the lot as proposed. It does not meet the RS50 standards because it's only 45 feet in area. It meets the 50-foot lot width, but it does not meet the 5,000 square foot minimum lot area standard. It's only 4,500 square feet because it has it's less than 100 feet in depth. Saying that, there's only one modification for natural resources between the first and second reading. The applicant has worked very closely over the past few months with our natural resources department to protect an off-site tree, as well as to protect a second off-site tree that has a root system and a crown system that goes into the subject property. So there's a representative of natural resources present if you wish to discuss that issue further, but overall, the Development Review and Compliance staff did find this consistent with the City of Tampa Land Development Code.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? No? Were you sworn in, sir?
I was not.
Okay.
I do.
Go ahead.
Good evening, council members. I'm John Lawless here, representing the applicant, Balint Tavlon, who is also here with us. I don't believe I have a tremendous amount to add to the city's presentation. Just to reiterate, again, the lot as it currently exists is undevelopable simply because it's about 10% short of the RS50 requirements. The proposed PD plan is consistent with the otherwise RS50 use. It's consistent with the area. And so simply to not allow the land to lie fallow, we're seeking the rezoning.
Do we have any questions for the gentleman? Hearing none, do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item, REZ 20-56?
No one has registered to speak on this item, and the clerk's office did not receive any written comments.
Okay. Were you both planning to speak?
Yeah.
Okay. Where have you both been sworn in? No. If you would please raise your right hand and we'll swear you in.
Do you swear affirm you would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. Thank you.
All right. If you would approach the lectern one at a time and alternate, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening, council members. My name is Richard Diaz. I live at 3225 West O'Keller. That's across the street, catty corner from the subject property. I want to clarify a couple of items that have been made with regard to the legal conformity of the lot. This is a platted lot of record. There's nothing that's been changed with the dimensions of this lot. It's been buildable since the lot was platted, the subdivision was platted in excess of 50 years ago that I know of. I've lived there that long. So there's nothing in the way of a nonconformity that would create a challenge for development of this lot. The PD that's requested, you can build a single-family home on this lot without having a PD zoning. There are a number of trees on the lot. There's 7 significant trees. We measured them in accordance with a survey. There's about 163 inches of DBH oak trees on the property. That's a lot of oak trees. The original site plan prepared contemplated the removal of every single tree from the lot. I'm aware that a revised site plan has been submitted, and the revised site plan now shows 1 grand oak, a 39-inch grand oak, to remain. And speaking with the city, that was viewed as some sort of a compromise. I'm sure you can appreciate the need for compromise in zoning, but to compromise from a pretty unremarkable condition to start and only create the 1 remaining tree with all the others completely removed does not seem to be equitable nor matching the spirit of any cooperation. The other elements of the site plan that are problematic are in order to build on the lot, the developer is proposing to relocate the building footprint all the way back to the lot, to the rear lot line, with a rear setback of 12 feet. Y'all are sitting on 6-foot tables, so the rear setback is going to be the width of 2 tables put together. That would not be consistent with anything else in the neighborhood. The immediate properties to the east, which were indeed rezoned 2 years ago or so, they have a 20 and a 23-foot setback on their lots. The property to the south, adjacent property, has a 20-foot rear yard setback. So one of the fundamental elements we believe in fairness would be conformity with setbacks that match the adjacent properties. This petition does not. Another element that's troubling is the drainage. With a rear yard setback of 12 feet, drainage in infill properties has to drain from the rear of the property to the front. I've been a professional civil engineer for 45 years. I've done hundreds of drainage projects, and I can assure you this is going to be a challenge to comply with. In order to do that, you have to raise the elevation of the rear lot to get water to flow to the street. With the site plan shown, you can't accomplish that. Those are the elements that I have to oppose this petition, and I would respectfully request you grant that petition's proposal.
Thank you very much.
Opposition. Thank you.
Yes, questions, Councilman Dingfelder?
Mr. Diaz, your testimony seems to be, and I respect your credentials as a civil engineer. Your testimony seems to be in conflict with some of the other testimony we've heard tonight from Ms. Samaniego, as well as from the petitioner in regard to the use of this sort of orphaned lot. It's 45 feet wide. It's sort of left over from these other 2 lots that it was originally attached to, and now it's on its own. And you're saying it could be developed as a 45-foot lot without the PD, and they're saying this is the only way to go. Tell me what I'm missing.
Mr. Dingfelder, there's thousands of lots in the city that are recorded in platted subdivisions that are less than 50 feet. The remaining lots, the majority of the lots, if not all, are 50-foot lots. My lots are 2 50-foot lots across the street. So I don't agree that this lot is any different from the 50-foot lot, conformity.
But they have, it's my understanding that those others have homes that are vested on those lots. I don't know what the status of this one is. I assume it's vacant. I don't know.
There was a residence on this lot years ago. And it would require architectural challenge and a building challenge, but clearly a single-family residence can be built on this lot. And the hardship here is self-imposed because, the developer is going to ask you to reduce or relax standards in order that he can make some sort of an investment successful. Well, that's not a hardship that the city has created. The city recorded the subdivision plat. This has been a lot of record for many, many years, so there's no hardship for that.
Okay. So I need to get my confusion clarified by Mary, and I'll do that in a few minutes, but thank you for your assistance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
And thank you, council members. My name is Brett Metcalf. I am the adjacent property owner at 3226 West O'Keller Avenue. I live there with my wife, Holly, my 5-year-old son, Parker, and my 9-month-old daughter, Penelope. We share a boundary with this property, and we are one of the 2 houses that was recently developed. We moved in about a year ago. We were not involved in the permitting process ourselves. We bought the home from a builder. So they were involved in the construction and permitting process, but we do live directly next door to this property. The interesting proposal that it seems that has been laid out here is that we've got two choices. You either save the grand oak that's at the front of the property, or you allow for a 12-foot setback. And I don't think this is an either-or situation, because we can do, you can essentially save the oak tree up front and have a standard setback that's consistent with the rest of our community. As Mr. Diaz pointed out a moment ago, the houses that are in our community, every one that I can see, particularly with the adjacent property, has a minimum 20-foot setback. Mine might be the only exception with a 23-foot setback. And I think it's important because these are smaller lots to begin with. And for anybody that's driven through South Tampa, or if any of you live in South Tampa and they build two larger houses next to each other, it can begin to feel crowded. And we don't have a lot of space in our front yard. Our 23-foot deep backyard is our sanctuary away from the street. And if there is a 12-foot setback with our neighbor's house, that is going to dramatically impact our privacy in our already small backyard. I know one of our other neighbors is going to testify to that as well. That is the major problem as we see it here, is that what is being applied for here and requested is a 12-foot setback and a variance to the city code. The original application called for a 15-foot setback of that rear property line, and that is out of line with the neighborhood as it is. So to suggest another 3 feet and shrink that rear lot even further and encroach on the privacy of our property even more, I think is frankly completely out of character with the neighborhood itself. Two smaller points that I'd like to make. There is on the eastern boundary of this property, there is a tree that is, the plan calls for this tree to be removed. My fence, this is the bordering line of our property, my fence is boxed around this tree, and visually it appears that part of the base of that trunk is actually on my property itself. I believe that I have a vested property interest in that tree, and the plan calls for that tree to be removed entirely. As I said, we've already constructed a fence that boxes around that tree. My house and the foundation of my house sits about 7 feet away from that oak tree. And so I have concern that if that tree is removed and the roots eventually decay, that it's going to have a foundation problem and it's going to cause problems for my house down the road. A smaller issue there, but it's still something that's on my mind, is we paid a little bit too much money for some artificial turf in our backyard, and if that soil sags, we're going to have to refill that too. And so I am concerned about the root system in that particular tree if it is removed.
Thank you very much.
Two more points.
Sure.
One is the site plan calls for a sidewalk. There is no sidewalk on O'Keller anywhere. So this would be the first sidewalk on the 4 blocks of O'Keller between Himes and McDill. And just for reference, I did have one last point I wanted to show to you on the Elmo, if I can figure out how to work this thing.
It's there, we can see it.
This is a picture of my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
That's the 23 feet deep, running from side to side. If this house goes with a 12-foot setback, that is my artist rendering of an edited image that shows how much of my yard is going to be overtaken, at least visually, by the neighboring structure. I think ultimately the resolution here and the way to make this work, if you do approve building a structure on this property, is to just build a smaller house. Save the tree up front. You know, instead of building a 3,200 square foot house, they can build a 2,400 square foot house just like mine is. And it would be consistent with the neighborhood. There's no need for a variance to allow for an even tinier backyard that's going to adversely affect our property. I really appreciate you all giving us the time and the space here to speak.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Go to that mic, sir.
Yeah, you can alternate podiums.
Thank you. Wonderful suggestion.
Your name, please.
Good evening, council members. My name is Charles Goddard. I want to second the opposition that you just heard from Mr. Metcalf and Richard prior to him. I know this has been a long night, and I'll try to make these comments brief. Again, I very much appreciate the time and, most importantly, your attention. I reside at the adjacent property directly to the south of Lot 15, along with my wife, my 2-year-old son, my infant daughter, and the biggest little dog on the street, our Boston Terrier, Pipsqueak the dog. I want to preface my comments by saying I'm not opposed to development. I'm all for it. I even support Petitioner Lazar's petition you heard earlier. I support the motion we had prior to this item. I've seen firsthand the surge of new residences built here in the last few years, and it's not lost on me that they certainly can revitalize the older neighborhoods like Bayshore Beautiful, where I live. And if I didn't say it earlier, I reside at the lot directly to the south of Lot 15, 3303 West Villa Rosa. I appreciate and I welcome new developments and all of the positive qualities that they offer. At the same time, when a developer is trying to change a 20-foot rear setback to 12 feet, that raises a red flag. I am sure this council hears often, and this is certainly not to disparage any public comments heard tonight, but I'm sure this council hears often neighbors objecting to new developments simply because of NIMBYism or they don't want a new structure on a previously vacant property. I want to be clear, this is far from that. As currently proposed, this new 2-story house on Lot 15 will be 12 foot from the rear of my property line and at 24 feet height have 2 windows directly facing into the largest panoramic window in my house, directly into my living room. Not to mention directly into my family's swimming pool. Said differently, this proposed rear setback reduction will directly impact my privacy, the airflow, the view, and significantly alter and detract from my family's use and enjoyment of our property. Accordingly, I object to the proposed reduction of the rear setback from 20 feet to 12 feet because it would have a significant adverse impact upon my family's use and enjoyment of our property that is different from the general impact it would have on the other lots in the district. Given the artist renditions the panel is open to seeing, I will take this moment to show a few pictures. This is the window facing into our living room. This is the view from, I'm standing about 10 feet back and holding my camera up 6 feet high. Certainly at 24 feet high, you would be seeing directly into the living room and into my swimming pool. There's my artist rendition of exactly where the house will be standing and the windows and the view that we'll be looking at and what they will be looking into from our property.
Thank you very much.
I'm not done. Thank you. As a bit of background, when I moved to Tampa a decade ago, I lived at an upscale condo off South Howard. I enjoyed coming home from work to my balcony where I could wave down friends leaving McDenton's and carry conversations with passerbys walking by. Before I digress, the point is, privacy was not a reasonable expectation, and it certainly was not consistent with the character of that community. Then I met my wife, and we decided we want to start a family. We wanted to live in a private, family-friendly community. Of all of the
Thank you very much, sir.
Your 3 minutes were up.
Oh, 3 minutes.
Yes.
Well,
that
thank you
was
for
the
your
buzzer.
thank you for your
very
time.
much. Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Any questions or comments from council members?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir, before we go to rebuttal.
Ms. Semeniega, Mary?
Yes, sir.
So I guess I was a little confused on, and it's my fault, on the presentation, what you said and then what Mr. Diaz said. Is this a vested buildable lot at 45 feet right now?
Mary Semeniego, for one, it's not a 45-foot wide lot, it's a 50-foot wide lot.
Okay, excuse me.
So no, it's not a vested lot. It was not legally created, so it cannot be developed today. The reason why is because staff acknowledges it's a developable, it is a lot of record. But as your code states, if a lot of record, if multiple lots of record adjoin and they're owned by a single owner, they're considered one zoning lot. You see 2 or 3 cases every month where somebody's coming in, they own 2 or 3 platted lots, they cannot subdivide under the current code, so they come in to go from RS60 to RS50 because the platted lots don't meet the current code.
Okay,
So when this property was owned, this lot was owned with the lots directly to the east, they were non-conforming lots under single ownership. When those lots were sold to the new parties, this lot became non-conforming, not because of it has a 50-foot lot width, which is conforming, but it's only 90 feet deep. So therefore, it does not meet the RS50 minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet.
Okay, so you're saying therefore it can't do RS50, so if it's going to be buildable, it would need to be a PD.
Correct.
Not necessarily this PD.
Correct.
Okay. One more question to our arborist. Bill, you've got off easy tonight until now. So there's a lot of trees on this parcel, and there's trees adjacent to it. And I don't know if you have a drawing that Mary could put up while we're talking about it, but let's talk about these trees. It appears to me that one in the front, let's see, 39 incher is impacting the proposed home and theoretically, I guess, pushing it back.
Bill Boris, Natural Resources. The 39-inch tree, it's a live oak, and we can get the canopy to fit the proposed home because the bulk of the larger limbs are facing to the north and to the west.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you, I'm sorry.
Maybe I'll just hold this. So we can get the 39-inch tree to fit the lot because the bulk of the branches are facing north and west away from the home. And just as important, we can get the root system to fit by shifting the home 3 feet. The code allows a 40% reduction in the 20-foot backyard. Section 27-156 says you can do that. In order to get the tree to fit, the proposal was to move the home a mere 3 feet away from the tree to get the protection zone, the tree protection zone intact. So you save those root systems. So it's a live oak. It's a nice tree. And I met the applicant out there, and I said, this tree can be saved.
So why is there an X on the drawing? The drawing I looked at didn't look like this picture.
Yeah, originally it was the proposal was to remove the tree. And now the proposal is between the first and second reading to preserve that tree and place a notch in the northwest corner of the house to do so.
Whose suggestion was that to go to this second proposal, which saves the tree but pushes it back?
Brian Knox was on the site before me, and then I was on the site to meet the applicant. We both came to the same conclusions separately to work to save that tree on the northwest corner. It's a 39-inch grand live oak.
But there is an alternative design, which is to remove the 39-inch tree, slide the home forward so the rear is consistent. Well, here it shows 15 feet, which is not consistent.
Yeah, the proposal was to move it 3 feet.
Sorry?
The proposal was to move it 3 feet to the south.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and the tree on the east side that was brought up by the neighbor on the east, it's a C9, it's a high hazard tree. It's got hollows and decay, and if the concern was the root system decaying over time, well, it takes a long time for that root system to decay. And in the meantime, if there is a void in the soil, you can fill it with more soil and back that down. So that's not going to be an issue.
I'm more concerned with that tree going through that house, the new house on the east side. The branches are, it's a brittle laurel oak. You could see the hollows in it. It should not stay, and it's on this property. He did build his fence around it, but it's a tree that should go just for public safety.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Sammiego, just a quick question. You talked about how this went through the process a few years ago to split this into 3 sections. Is there anything in the past record, legal, stop me if I can't ask this, but is there anything in the past record that shows why they didn't just do all 3 at the same time? Why did they only do 2 of them?
Mary Samaniego.
Was it rejected or not?
No, it wasn't part, it was just the applicant chose to only create, I can't speak to it. I don't want to speculate. I don't know why it was not part of the original PD. This property was not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions?
You know, it's 50 foot wide, but 90 feet deep, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
So you're looking at 4,500 feet, correct?
Correct.
So therefore, that's one of the reasons that the setback, if it was 100 foot, so this lot is a buildable lot, but it's 500 short square footage of being a real buildable lot, correct?
Correct.
So the problem is the size of the house. It's a buildable lot, but it's not a buildable lot. Depends how you look at it. All right.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else for public comment? Did I ask if there was anybody at the kiosk?
Eileen Rosario, Development and Growth Management. There is no one here to speak on this item. Thank you.
All right. You have rebuttal, sir.
I believe that most of my rebuttal points have actually been covered by the city already. With respect to the RS50 designation, it is, in fact, not a buildable lot regardless of the size of the house, just because it is zoned RS50. So in order to accommodate a house, it's going to require a PD regardless. With respect to the setbacks, again, because the lot is a reduced size, due to the prior PD designation, sort of leaving this orphaned lot, a variance is going to be, to some degree, necessary just to make it usable, again, consistent with RS50 use.
Could I ask you a question on that point?
You may.
My guess is everybody along there has 90-foot lots?
Correct.
Okay. Because, so the splitting of those 3 lots split them, their width, but it didn't impact the depth.
It did not impact the depth, but it did impact the total square footage, which left it short of the RS50.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page.
Correct, correct.
Thank you.
The lots that were RS50 capable were wider than the 50 feet because that allows for the 5,000 square feet. Here, we have 50 feet, essentially only 50 feet, which leaves it short of the 5,000 necessary. With respect to the setback, regardless, really, this is going to require a variance as far as the setback is concerned. It's really a choice between that oak and the setback in the rear. Here, we've chosen the oak with the revised plan. Of course, we would be open to not choosing that, but the preference, obviously, I think for everybody involved in the city would be to preserve the oak. Are there any other questions?
Any other questions from council members?
Yeah. It's not really a question. I mean, this is sort of biblical, you know, choosing between one or the other. I think if we didn't, you know, sometimes a particular neighborhood might value the tree, especially a front yard tree, and say, yeah, sure, go ahead and slide to the rear. And when Joe and I were on the VRB, I often advocated to slide structures around to save a tree. But in this case, you've got neighbors on either side that have a big problem with that. Young children, privacy, pools, etc. And I haven't heard anybody along that street say, save the tree. So even though you know, I have a pretty good reputation for being a tree hugger. In this case, you know, I think I'm more of a neighborhood hugger, so I don't know. And it also appears that you had a plan that, you know, that was willing to sacrifice the tree and slide it forward, although frankly, I don't know exactly where their homes are built, but it appears that they're saying they have 20-foot rear setbacks, and you're only offering 15 on that other site plan.
That would be correct. Again, due to the reduced square footage of the lot, the original plan still had the 15-foot setback rather than the 12-foot setback. Again, I understand that the surrounding lots currently have the enjoyment of a vacant lot, but the general benefit of the city and the neighborhood would be the development of this lot in some way other than just having it lie fallow, again, because it is unbuildable without a PD designation.
Right, so you'd be amenable to going back to your original site plan?
We would.
And eliminating that, and that's just me. That's not, there's 7 of us, but, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, really, I mean, frankly, either plan will work for the applicant.
Councilman Carlson.
Legal, stop me if I can't ask this question, but understanding the current situation of the property, why would somebody buy it? Was there another expectation of what would be done with it, or was it always the expectation that this would get changed?
Really, the only expectation for the neighborhood would be detached single-family residential. Everything around is, again, RS50, detached single-family residential. There's no other practical use for the property other than that. And again, doing anything else with it, it essentially has to be PD residential or nothing at all at this point. That makes any sense, at least for the city.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Martin Shelby. If I can, before the petitioner finishes his rebuttal, just a reminder to council the concept of a PD and the PD requirements in chapter 27, and what makes this space unique and requirement of what is brought before you, and also reminding you that when you evaluate a PD, it's the consistency with regard to height, mass, and scale of the compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood. So I just want you to be reminded to focus your attention on the requirements of Chapter 27 when you do your evaluations, as opposed to, let's say, the expectations of sale. So if you could focus that on that, and if you have any questions for the petitioner or any other witnesses, that's where you would be best able to focus your attention.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
I think Ms. Wells is up too.
Okay, Ms. Wells, go ahead, and then Councilman Citro.
Thank you. Kate Wells, Chief Assistant City Attorney. Just a point of clarification with regard to the discussion about removing the grand tree that's in the front of the yard. It is outside of the tree removal zone, and it has not been included in tonight's petition as a request for waiver. It's a Mr. Boris confirmed for me that it's a non-hazardous grand tree. And in your PD site plan applications, whenever an applicant is requesting to remove a non-hazardous grand tree, it shows up as a waiver. It has not been noticed for that purpose this evening.
What's the impact of that? The legal impact?
We are delayed. They would have to re-notice with that request for a waiver to remove a non-hazardous grand tree.
All right, Councilman Citro.
That changes my,
Okay.
but not enough to say. The concerns with your surrounding neighbors, to me, sounds like you're trying to put 10 pounds of mud into a 5-pound sack. Would you consider going back to the drawing board and redesigning your house so that maybe you might be a friendly neighbor?
To the extent that it would impact the consistency of the home, we would likely be talking about a substantially smaller home in a neighborhood, which could actually make that a bit inconsistent.
And I gather that so, most new home building want to get the best bang of the buck, especially in South Tampa. But I'm just offering up a suggestion. Thank you.
Understood. May I make one more comment with respect to the Grand Oak?
Sure, go ahead, and then we'll close it out.
Councilman Dinglefeld, mentioned that we haven't had anybody here saying save the tree. Part of the reason for that is likely that the plan for hearing preserves the tree. It's very likely that at some point we would have somebody here to save the tree had we suggested removing the tree.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
I wanted to also reiterate, and thank you, Mr. Citro, for your comments. What Mr. Miranda said, which I think was very poignant, is that ultimately they could, you know, we don't want to deny anybody the right to build a house, but I believe what Mr. Miranda said was, but maybe it could be a smaller house. There's not any, and Mr. Citro, I think, implied that as well. There's not any requirement to, I don't know how many square feet this is. I couldn't find it on the site plan, but your neighbors indicate maybe it's 3,000 plus.
That's correct.
And there's no legal constitutional requirement to allow a 3,000, especially on a lot that you admit is deficient to start with, and frankly not even buildable today. So there's a lot of things there to think about. Maybe you want a continuance to revisit those.
Understood. With that in mind, I believe that, may I have this moment to speak with the applicant? Thank you.
Just wasting some time, keeping the rhythm going.
We are amenable to a continuance. The comment that I'll have to make about that as well is even reducing the footprint of the house is likely going to require some variance with respect to the setback in the back. It's not likely that we're going to be able to get to both 20 feet and save the grand oak and have anything consistent with respect to the neighborhood.
My comment earlier was we might not be able to save that oak. But, you know, I guess that's yet to be seen.
Understood.
So do you wish to request a continuance?
Oh, yes, pardon me. We do wish to request a continuance.
Until when?
Our next meeting, I think we could have that ready by December if it's available, however.
Am I on?
Is March-
Thank you, Mary Samniego. Your next available meeting is March 11th.
March 11th it would be then.
All right. May I have a motion to continue this to March 11th at 6 p.m.?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Question on the motion.
Okay.
I saw some pain in the property owner's face when he heard March, and he's probably got carrying costs if he already owns this thing. I don't know. Is it under contract, or do you own it already? You own it already? So he's got carrying costs and that sort of thing. Mr. Goods, we could maybe squeeze him into February just to, you know, try and be a little more accommodating. That's up to you. That's up to you.
Mr. Dingfelder, what I've got on my mind right now, we can go and do what we need to do. That'll be fine.
Okay.
All right. So
I mean, that would just be my suggestion to council. I understand we try and limit our number of hearings.
how many items do we have on February 11th?
You already have 13 cases for February 11th.
And Mr. Chairman, I should point out that I'm going to be working with the clerk's office in order to get a total number. Those are 13 land use rezoning cases. It doesn't include necessarily what may be comp plan amendments. It may not be review hearings. I cannot tell you. I can look at the calendar for February.
All right, never
And
mind.
I can't even tell you what actually is on there for
Let's
February.
leave it for March because
that's fine.
We're just loaded up.
I understand.
All right. So we voted on the motion. And yeah, we're done. So March.
Ask for that count again because I interrupted it.
Okay. All in favor of March 11th at 6 p.m.?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, Mr.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Mr.
council
Chairman,
members.
Yes?
If you would give me a little difference, a little latitude, I need to leave my community. My district is hurting right now. I've just got through off a press conference with several of the black elected officials. We've had another shooting, this one inside the city limits. 5 injured, apparently 2 or 3 dead. I need to get out there to the community right now. I've got several calls, that's what I've been going back and forth. If you allow me to make one quick motion in reference to.
Go ahead.
Leader, I would appreciate that, sir.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to give accommodation to the second place winner in the Florida League of Mayors / Florida League of Cities, if you were a mayor, essay contest, to Brady Coffee Keller from the LLT Academy in Tampa. I would like to make this accommodation on 12/10/20 at the evening session of City Council, sir.
We have a motion from Councilman Good, second from Councilman Dingfelder. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And again, council members, we're going to need everybody on board. The community is hurting now, and we're going to need everybody on board to figure out this violence that's going on at this particular time.
Let us know
in
if
the
we can
county
help.
and the
Prayers
city.
for
Thank you.
Could I,
Yes?
Mr. Legal, what does this do to our quorum?
Nothing.
You have 5.
We're still okay,
You're okay.
unless somebody.
Yeah. All right, item number 12.
Good evening, Council. Ryan Manassi with Development Coordination. Item number 12 is file number REZ 20-58. It's for the property generally located at 3408 West Wallcraft Avenue. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property from RS60, residential single family, to PD for residential single family detached. I'll defer to the Planning Commission for their report, and if you'd please return to me to finish mine. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Malone.
We can't hear you.
And make sure you're not muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. South Tampa Planning District, single-family neighborhood generally. It's located east of South Himes Avenue. There's Selman Expressways in the area as well. We have the South Tampa YMCA right here within the area. The green is representing the recreational open space, the YMCA and those Little League fields. The orange is the residential 10 future land use designation, which is the destination of the subject site. The Planning Commission found this consistent with the comprehensive plan. The density of the subject site would be 5.71 units per acre, which is consistent with the current neighborhood density and below the residential 10 maximum density. This would not alter the character of the neighborhood, and it would be redeveloped within the existing street, block, and lot configuration. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ryan Manassi, Development Coordination. Again, item number 12 was file number REZ 20-58, and the applicant is proposing to rezone the property at 3408 West Wallcraft Avenue, again from RS60 to PD, to allow for a single-family detached residential dwelling unit. The property is located 3 lots to the west of West Wallcraft Avenue and South Linwood Avenue's intersection on the south side of West Wallcraft Avenue. The required minimum lot width in the RS60 zoning district is 60 feet with a 6,000 square foot minimum lot area. The platted lot 21 measures 53 feet by 145.5 feet with a total area of 7,713.6 square feet, and the platted lot 22 measures 53 feet by 145 feet for a total area of 7,685 square feet. The setbacks for lot 21 and lot 22 are north 25 feet for the front porch, 30 feet for the main structure, south 20 feet, east 7 feet, and west 7 feet. The maximum building height is proposed at 35 feet. The property is surrounded by the zoning district RS60 to the north, south, east, and west with detached single-family residence structures. The proposal before you is requesting one waiver. It comes from section 27284.2.5 F1, and that's for the removal of the non-hazardous grand live oak, a 33-inch that is located near the center of the lot of the PD plan as shown. Also, they did go through a couple reasonable reconfiguration designs with our Natural Resources Department, and there is a grand tree evaluation in your staff reports. Should you have any questions, we do have Natural Resources here to answer those.
All right, any questions?
Still a little bit more,
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
The Linwood subdivision was originally platted Let me put the conforming map up for you. So this Lindenwood subdivision was originally platted in 1924 with lots that varied from widths from 47.5 to 117.8 feet and depths from 100 feet to 146.8 feet. The overall subdivision included 13 blocks, and the subject property is located again on lots 21 and 22 of Block 13. The overall area of analysis includes the Lindenwood subdivision. The area of analysis included 361 total zoning lots. 198, or 55% of those lots, have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 163, or 45%, have been developed with a lot width of 59.99 feet or less. Pursuant to the review of the existing development pattern, the subject block contains 12 total zoning lots. 2, or 17% of those lots have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 10, or 83%, have been developed with a lot width of 59.99 feet or less. The 3400 block of West Wallcraft Avenue, which is both sides of the street, it contains 9 total zoning lots, and 4, or 44% of those lots, have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 5, or 56, have been developed with a width of 59.99 feet or less. The block face itself contains 5 total zoning lots, with one of them, or 20% of those, being developed with a lot width of 60 feet or greater, and 4, or 80%, being developed with a lot width of 59.99 feet or less. Based upon this analysis, staff did find the proposed request rezoning consistent with the existing development pattern of the area. Should council approve this on first reading, there is a revision sheet that we request that you include in your petition, or I'm sorry, your motion. And again, the Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed the application. We do find it consistent with the City of Tampa Land Development Code. Please refer to the findings of the Development Coordination in relation to the existing development pattern. And staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions? No? Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Steve Michelini, representing the petitioner. Let me go through a couple of photographs here.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes?
would it be advisable to inform all the next applicants coming up that we only have 5 council members present?
The next applicant is Mr. Michelini.
I
then
see
we-
that. I'm speaking not only for Mr. Michelini, but everyone that comes after him.
Is there anybody outside in the lobby? I see one person. All right, we have 5 council members present. Just an FYI to those that will be presenting in the next few cases here, just so they know. Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. As Ryan has pointed out, this is the subject parcel here, and the surrounding lots around this are all 50 feet or less, and then behind it are the same. And I also have gone along Drexel, and those are also smaller lots. I just wanted to point out before I go to the next photograph, we started working with the Neighborhood Association very early on this project. And again, it was Chelsea Johnson, and we also worked with Natural Resources, and we employed reasonable reconfiguration to save some of the trees. That one tree that we can't save is exactly in the middle of the lot. Anyway, this is a view of some of the adjacent properties, and the area has undergone some redevelopment, but these are the older homes that are existing. This is the property going westward toward Himes. So as the staff has pointed out, we have an extremely deep lot. Here's a better view to give you an idea of what's happening. Is that we're proposing to split the lot, so you'd have the 2 adjacent lots here, this lot, the 3 or 4 lots behind here, and then it skips around a little bit. But there is a development pattern here that supports this. This back on again. Ryan pointed out on the block face that we have 80% consistency with this proposal. And again, you have to show unique conditions. We've As I said, we've met in the field with the natural resources staff. The rear portion of this lot is heavily treed, and we've done everything we can to try to save those trees and also to be able to have a buildable lot. It does promote the efficient and stable development in sustainable areas. It's not introducing a new element that doesn't already exist. The staff, as I said, the Planning Commission and the city staff have found it consistent. I'm not aware of any neighborhood concerns or objections. As I said, we started working with them very early in the process. We are trying to improve and upgrade the existing housing stock. This does not interfere with the health, safety, and welfare of others. Substantial justice would be done and is consistent with the comp plan. I guess to abbreviate, unless someone is objecting, I would just say we respectfully request your approval.
Thank you very much. Any questions from council? Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item, item number 12, REZ 20-58?
No one has registered to speak on this item, and the clerk's office did not receive any written comments.
Is there anybody at the kiosk?
No, there isn't. Thank you.
All right, nobody in the audience?
Move to
Seeing none,
close.
do we have a motion to close from Councilman Citro, second from Councilmember Miranda? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Councilman Carlson, would you mind reading number 12, and don't forget to include the revision sheet?
Sir, I'd like to move file number REZ 20-58, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3408 West Wallcraft Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to PD plan development residential single family detached, providing an effective date, including the revision sheet.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Miranda, roll call vote.
I have to add.
Go ahead, read the whole statement.
I have to
Again,
add
item 12, please.
I have to add that I believe the petitioners met their burden of proof to provide competent substantial evidence that the development is conditioned and shown is consistent with the comprehensive plan and city code.
All right, we had the second from Councilmember Miranda, and that includes the revision sheet. Roll call vote.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Goods, Maniscalco.
Yes.
Viera, Cedro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried with Goods and Viera being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 3rd at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Item number 13.
Ryan Manassi, Development Coordination. Item number 13 is file number REZ 20-75. It's for the property located at 203 Danube Avenue, and they're requesting to rezone from RM24 residential multifamily to RM18 residential multifamily. I'll defer to the Planning Commission for their report, and please return to me.
All right, Ms. Malone?
Jennifer Malone with the Planning Commission. Am I off mute?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. It's 2075. We're in the Central Tampa Planning District. This is on Davis Island, so it's also within the Davis Island Urban Village. I'll also point out the subject site is within the coastal high hazard area. This is the Tampa Bay right here. This is the subject site. The underlying future land use designation is residential 35. That is that darker brown color. Davis Island has a lot of varying densities. It was developed on the future land use map to have a lot of different types of densities. We have a little bit of the residential 6 in the corner on the map. Much of the island is residential 6. There's also residential 10, and then it transitions to this residential 35. This is also community mixed use 35 in the PE, which is that commercial corridor. We did find this consistent with the comprehensive plan. This is a request from, it's actually a request less than the current zoning that they have now. And so we found that it was consistent, it provided more residential housing choices, and it would not alter that character or development pattern of Davis Island. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions? No? Sir, go ahead.
Thank you. Again, item number 13, file number REZ 20-75. This is for the property located at 203 Danube Avenue, and they're requesting a rezone from RM24 to RM18 to allow for the development of any RM18 use. The 10,000 square foot property is located on the southeast corner of the Danube Avenue and Barbados Avenue intersection. The property is currently occupied by a multifamily dwelling with 3 units constructed in 1948. The subject site is surrounded by multifamily residents to the north, south, and west in the RM16 zoning districts, and the commercial to the east in the CG zoning district. The development must adhere to all City of Tampa land development regulations at time of permitting, and this being a Euclidean rezoning, there are no waivers allowed per this request, and there's also no site plan. The screen in front of you shows the historic landmarks. There are 2 of them, the Palomera Hotel and the Roy Jenkins Pool. There were no historic landmarks for the National in the vicinity of the area. Again, the subject property is located outlined in red. There's your Barbados and then the Danube Avenue. The development review and compliance staff has reviewed the application, and we do find the request consistent with the City of Tampa land development regulations. Should you have any questions, staff is available to answer those.
All right, do we have any questions? Hearing none, go ahead, sir.
Council, Steve Michelini again, representing the petitioner for 203 Danube. The only comments that we got on this petition at all was they thought that we'd made a mistake in requesting a downzoning from RM24 to RM18. It will allow for the development of 4 units, and basically we will have to deal with the coastal high hazard issues and the flood zone elevations at the time of permitting. So as Ryan also pointed out, no waivers are allowed. They're not under Euclidean zoning. The land use is Res 35, and this is a significant reduction in what previously could have been built on the property. I'll suspend the rest of my presentation in deference to the hour, and certainly request your approval. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Do you have any questions for the applicant, Councilman Dingfelder? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Why?
The RM18 provides a little bit of different development standards for setbacks. The setbacks are the same. What happens with RM24 is that once you go over 30 feet, you end up with a zigzag zoning heights. You have to inset the second floor for every foot of distance.
It's the cake, the wedding cake.
The wedding cake, and it just becomes very cumbersome to try to develop that.
So
and the site itself is really compatible with 3 or 4 units and not any more than that.
Okay, that was one of my questions, was what is the potential?
4 units, so I mentioned that.
4 units max?
That's correct.
And what kind of height limitation on the RM18?
35 feet.
Same as single family?
Yes, sir. You're surrounded by townhouses and other commercial projects that are about the same size and scale.
So this is a tear down, this opportunity clearly?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Really, it helps to make the development criteria a little bit easier to deal with so that you're not zigzagging, the upper levels. We're addressing.
So even at 35 feet, well, let me ask Mary this, or Ryan, even at 35 feet, there's still a wedding cake requirement?
In the current zoning, RM24, it does refer back to the a footnote that does state that setback for the height. Going to the RM18, you're just going to be at the 35 feet standard. Also, another setback that's a little bit different from the RM24, it should be the rear setback is 15 feet compared to 20 in the RM24.
Which one is which?
RM24 is 20 feet, RM18 is 15.
And we have no comments from Davis Island
I haven't received anything.
Neighborhood Association or anything?
They contacted us and we're happy we were down zoning.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
It's really a technical issue, Councilman, and one of the potential solutions is going to come to you shortly through one of the text amendments that kind of straightens these things out. And there are a number of issues like this, but right now, this is our only solution to get through the process.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item, item number 13, 20-75?
No one has registered to speak on this item, and the clerk's office did not receive any written comments on this item.
Do we have anybody at the kiosk?
No, there's no one at the kiosk, thank you.
Move to close.
We have a motion closed from Councilman Citro, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Councilman Citro, would you mind reading item number 13?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I move file number REZ 20-75, an ordinance be presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning the property in the general vicinity of 203 Danube Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RM24 residential multifamily to RM18 residential multifamily, providing an effective date as the petitioner has met the burden of proof and it is in compliance with land use development code. The proposed zoning category is consistent and compatible with the existing development pattern in the surrounding area.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Dingfelder?
Yes.
Goods? Maniscalco?
Yes.
Viera? Citro?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
And Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried with Goods and Viera being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 3rd at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you,
sir.
Mr. Chair.
Item number 14.
Item number 14 is file number REZ 20-76. It's for the property located at 3305 West Union Street. The applicant is proposing to rezone from RS50 residential single family to PD for residential single family detached. I'll defer to the Planning Commission and please return to me.
Jennifer Malone with the Planning Commission. I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can. Go
This is
ahead.
it's in the Central Tampa Planning District, within the McFarland Park neighborhood, and McFarland Park is actually within the view of the screen right here. We have a lot of single-family detached with some commercial uses to the south along that I-275. So the subject site is residential 10. To the south, it transitions to residential 20. Community commercial 35 is that red. Those are those commercial uses that are adjacent to the interstate. And then the green is the McFarland Park as recreational open space. So the existing density of this portion of West Union Street is 9.11 dwelling units per acre, again, below that residential 10 future land use designation. The planned development is within the residential 10 density allotted with the comprehensive plan. We found that it would be built within the existing street block and lot configuration of the neighborhood, and that the request supports policy direction and several of our plans housing policies was encouraging housing on existing vacant or underutilized land. So it is consistent, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, sir.
Hello. Okay. Item number 14, file number REZ 20-76. This is the applicant proposing to rezone the property at 3305 West Union Street from RS50 to PD plan development to allow one single-family detached residential lot. The west side of the subject property, or I'm sorry, the subject parcel has been developed with a single-family dwelling unit as depicted on the proposed site plan. The approval of this rezoning would allow the existing structure to remain on the lot containing a width of 49 feet while splitting the east side of the property, leaving a 50-foot wide lot, which could be developed under the existing RS50 zoning district. The property is located and outlined on the map on the screen in red. It's west of North Lincoln Avenue and the West Union Street intersection. The property contains 3 platted lots, lots 28, 29, 30, and half a vacated alley to the north in block 37 of McFarland Park subdivision. The platted lots were orientated with the lot frontage on West Union Street, with each lot measuring 33 feet in width and 96 foot in depth. The proposed lot dimensions for the rezoning request, again, is 49 feet width and 102 by 90.93 feet in depth with a 5,043.6 square foot lot area. The required minimum lot width in the RS50 zoning district is 50 feet, and the total lot area is 5,000 square feet. Therefore, the only way to allow for 2 buildable lots in this requested plan development, as the west portion of the lot will not meet the RS50 minimum lot requirements. The setbacks for the single-family dwelling is south 20 feet to the main structure and 16 feet to the front porch, west 7 feet, east 7 feet, and north 20 feet. The maximum building height is proposed at 35 feet, and the property is surrounded by the zoning district RS50 with existing single-family detached dwellings on all sides. I'd like to put our conforming map on screen, and this is going through the staff analysis. The McFarland Park subdivision was originally platted in 1909 with lots that varied in width from 33 feet to 52, with a few large lots such as McFarland Park being 674 feet. The depths varied from 96 feet to 135 feet, again with a few larger lots like McFarland Park being the 637 feet. The overall subdivision included 58 blocks, and the subject property is again located on lots 28, 29, 30, and then again that half of the vacated alley to the north in block 37. The overall area of analysis included the McFarland subdivision. The area of analysis included 239 total zoning lots. 216 or 90% of those lots have been developed with a width of 50 feet or greater, and 23 or 10% have been developed with a lot width of 49.99 feet or less. Pursuant to the review of the existing development pattern, the subject block contains 17 total zoning lots. 16 or 94% of those lots have been developed with a width of 50 feet or greater, and 1 or 6% have been developed with a lot width of 49.99 feet or less. The 3300 block of West Union Avenue, again, both sides of the street, contains 13 total zoning lots. 100% of those lots have been developed with a lot width of 50 feet or greater, and 0 have been developed with a lot width of 49.99 feet or less. The block face contains 6 total zoning lots, and 6, or again, 100% of those lots have been developed with a lot width of 50 feet or greater, and 0 with 49.99 feet or less. Based upon this analysis, staff did find the proposed request for rezoning inconsistent with the existing development pattern of the area. There were no waivers to this petition request, and the development review and compliance staff again did find it inconsistent with the City of Tampa Land Development Code. If you would, please refer to the findings by the development coordination in relation to the existing development pattern in the area. If it is the pleasure of City Council to approve this application, there are modifications required on the site plan between first and second reading of the ordinance, and I'd ask that you read the revision sheet into said motion. Staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions at this time? All right. Sir, were you sworn in?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. If we could swear the gentleman in.
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Francisco Terra Castillo, 13014 North Dale Mabry. Good evening. We are proposing to rezone from RS50 to PD to allow for one single-family detached residential lot. The reason for the rezoning is because the lot frontage is falling short of the 50 minimum. We're at a little over 49 feet, but just below the 50 minimum. If approved, we will meet all required front, rear, side setbacks. No trees will be removed, and Natural Resources finds our petition consistent. Per the city, the area analysis finds 90% of the lots in the area to be developed with a width of 50 feet or greater, and 10% of the area to be developed with a width of 49.99 or less. So there are similar lots with the width we are proposing. As the elevations I will show, we will build a residential style that is complementary to the surrounding area with a 2-car garage. The Planning Commission, Natural Resources, Fire, Stormwater, Transportation, Wastewater, Solid Waste, and Water all have found our petition consistent. To summarize the objectives of the comprehensive plan, 2 things I'd like to mention. Regarding adequate sites to accommodate housing needs. 1, HSG Objective 1.3, ensure adequate supply of housing and available to meet the needs, preferences, and financial capabilities of Tampa households, now and in the future in all neighborhoods. And 2, HSG Policy 1.3.4, encourage new housing on vacant, infill, or underutilized land. We feel our petition addresses these needs and objectives. I just wanted to show some pictures to get a general idea of the house we're going to build. This is the house that was built on the lot next door, and we're proposing to do the similar kind of a house on the subject lot. And you see the 2-car garage. This is the view if you're standing on the lot across the street. As you can see, the house to the left is kind of smaller than the house right in front of us. So, like I said in my presentation, there are several size lots on that property 50 or greater or 50 below. And this is a street scene showing, just the street scene. There are lots on the right, and just, it'll be similar houses that we propose to build. And that concludes my presentation.
Do we have any questions for the gentleman? Councilman Dingfelder.
I didn't. Okay. I might have missed this, Ryan, when you gave your presentation, but let me ask the gentleman, what's the history of this lot, and is it related to the lot next door?
Yes. The original plat, there were three lots, 33 feet width, I believe. And that's my client, I guess, purchased the property, and then he permitted the house on the right. And now we're proposing is to rezone it to split the lot and to make this one buildable.
So he bought the 3 lots. I assume there was probably one single-family house?
Yes.
On all 3?
Yes.
And he bought the 3 lots. He built that one at what width?
The lot that's existing, sir?
Yeah, the lot with the house now is 50 feet.
It would be the RS50, as if you show the Elmo, I can kind of show you on the site plan.
So how did he do that in a 50?
The zoning's RS50. So this lot over here to the right, which is not included in this request, would be compliant with RS50 standards. The PD portion is this 49-foot lot, so it's not making the 50-foot minimum lot width requirement by 1 foot.
Oh, so both of these lots are RS50?
Correct. This was one parcel.
But it's 1 foot short?
Correct, sir.
So it was a 99-foot total deal?
49 by, it actually has...
No, I mean, the two of them together are 99.
Correct.
Yes. And then I got my site plan here, which I could add to it. To your question.
So, Ryan, why did we go through the exercise of looking at the colored map and the 60-foot versus the 50-foot when it's really an issue of it's already RS50, it's just an issue of do we want to give them a 1-foot variance?
Because you're dipping below that RS50 requirement. So the staff analysis is trying to show you the development pattern of the area and if the lots were less than 50 feet. And that's the point of that staff analysis included on top of the PD site plan, is to give you an overall idea of what's the development pattern of that neighborhood.
I know it's a subject for a later discussion, but this is the point I was trying to bring up at that workshop, gentlemen, was sometimes we get within a foot and we spend a lot of time and they spend a lot of money going through the PD. And we need to come up with a better system.
I've never voted for a 49-foot lot in West Tampa. I didn't vote for the one in Armenia, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So why should I vote for this one? He owned both lots. He knew what he bought, just like in South Tampa. Sometimes you do and sometimes you don't.
Yeah, I hear you, Charlie. I mean, it's not easy, but, and I'm not saying we should treat South Tampa.
I understand.
Different than West Tampa.
But some lots are already zoned in West Tampa that are 33. Some lots that are zoned that are 45. I have no problem with that. That's already done. But you're either going to change the culture or remain the culture.
Can I ask, maybe this isn't a pattern that I'm seeing tonight, or maybe it is, but it looks like somebody has the intention to split these lots and they can't get the full entitlement under one council, and then they come back another time and try to get a different one.
Yeah.
Was this one ever rejected, or why wouldn't they give an entitlement to both at the same time?
I'm not sure I understand the question exactly, sir.
So somebody at some point had a 99-foot lot and they split it in half, and they got an entitlement for one side, but they didn't get an entitlement for the other. Was this side rejected at some point?
No, there was no previous rezonings on this. I mean, the original platted lots were those 33-foot lots, but then over time it was RS60, so it was one total zoning lot. So when this when the applicant, I assume when they bought the lot, they bought that entire 99-foot lot, and then they decided to demo the house that was on there and then build this single-family structure while trying to, I guess, make this PD to get the 49-foot lot. That would be my assumption if the applicant.
All right.
Anybody in the public, I guess?
Do we have anybody for public comment on item number 14?
No, no one has registered to speak on this item, and the clerk office did not receive any written comments on this item.
Do we have anybody at the kiosk?
There is no one here at the kiosk. Thank you.
Move to close.
We have a motion to close from Councilman Citro. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. Councilman Miranda, would you mind reading this?
I pass, sir.
Councilman Dingfelder, would you mind taking this one?
Yeah, I will. With hesitancy, and Charlie, I respect your position. I know when you take a position, you hold strongly to it. I'll move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration regarding REZ 20-76, an ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3305 West Union Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classifications RS50, residential single family, to PD, plan development, residential single family detached, providing an effective date. I'll move that based upon the fact that I believe the evidence presented shows that they meet the criteria. Both the Planning Commission staff and the city staff have reports finding, the Planning Commission staff found it consistent, city staff found it inconsistent, I think mainly based upon the colored map and the large number of RS60s and not too many RS50s, but I'm not really sure how relevant that is today. But anyway, I believe the project is compliant with the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan based upon the evidence that we've heard in the Planning Commission staff report. I believe it meets the requirements of 27-136 in regard to being a site plan controlled development. I'm not sure if there is any waivers on this.
There are none.
No waivers.
We have the revision sheet, right?
No additional conditions.
The revision sheet, please, between first and second reading.
Okay, I'll incorporate the revision sheet for second reading, and that's my motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Citro. Roll call vote.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Goods, Maniscalco.
Yes.
Viera, Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
No.
and Carlson.
No.
Motion did not carry with Goods and Viera voting, correction, Goods and Viera being absent at vote, and Miranda and Carlson voting no.
Okay.
We have
need
to
to-
take a look at the rules.
I think you better ask for the full council to be here so the gentleman can answer.
Yes.
Exactly. Council,
On your microphone, please.
well, council, now that you're back in person session, normally you would set it for the next regular meeting when a full council would be present, which would be next week. Let me just double check the rule. I didn't have it handy.
Yeah, November 19th.
Quasi-judicial, quasi-judicial. Let me see. If at a quasi-judicial public hearing, only 4 members of the city council, let's see, nope. Let's see where we go. If in a, Rule 6H. If in a motion in a quasi-judicial matter, it fails to receive at least 4 votes, the motion fails, and if another motion in order is not made, the public hearing shall be automatically reopened and continued to a time certain at the next regularly scheduled council meeting. So technically, council, if you want to formally just make a motion to reopen, just so it's clear for the record, you can do that, and then continue the item to the November 19th morning meeting.
And what happens to the motion that's on the floor? Does it just get restated?
No, it
when
fails.
Huh?
There is no motion on the floor.
Motion failed, so then where does it leave us procedurally at the next meeting?
You have you have an open public hearing. The council members who are not present are going to have to review the record between now and then to be able to be in a position of able to make their vote based on competent substantial evidence. If they have any questions, the open public hearing allows them to ask the questions. And then what happens is then the petitioner has the opportunity for addressing any additional evidence in rebuttal. The hearing is closed. A motion is made based on what is before council that day, next week, and at the previous meeting here tonight.
Thank you. You understand?
I need a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Dingfelder. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, can I get a motion to continue this to the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is November 19th?
10:30 a.m., please.
I'm sorry?
10:30 a.m.
10:30 a.m. Motion from Councilmember Dingfelder, second from Councilmember Carlson. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, 10:30 a.m. It won't be exactly 10:30,
And I will
but next
inform,
Thursday.
and Mr. Chairman, I will inform the absent council members of the necessity of them having to review that meeting so they're prepared to vote next week.
Okay. All right. Item number 15.
Item number 15 is file number REZ 20-77 for the property located at 6223 South Main Street, and the applicant is requesting a rezone from residential single-family RS60 to residential single-family RS50. I'll defer to the Planning Commission. If you would, please return to me afterwards.
All right.
Thanks, Ryan. Jennifer Moore with the Planning Commission. This is located in the South Tampa Planning District. We are just north of Inner Bay Avenue. We have Skyview Park and some preserved parkland to the south, and Dale Mabry Highway is out of frame, but it is to the east of the subject site. The subject site is residential 10. That is the orange color. The green is representing that parkland in the area, and then the residential 20, which is the lighter brown in the area as well. We found that this would be consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the residential 10 future land use designation. The subject site would have if 2 dwelling units are developed on the subject site, it would have a density of 5.71 units per acre. That is below the maximum of the residential 10 designation. By increasing the buildable density of the subject parcel units per acre, the rezoning will provide additional infill housing on an underutilized parcel within the South Tampa Planning District, within proximity to transit and employment opportunities located on South Tampa Mabry Highway. It is consistent, and that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Ryan Manassi with Development Coordination. Again, item number 15 is file number REZ 20-77, and this is for, again, the property located at 6223 South Main Street. The applicant is, again, requesting a rezone from RS60 residential single family 60 to RS50 residential single family 50. This is a Euclidean rezoning, therefore there are no waivers allowed to be requested through this request. And the property currently includes 2 platted lots and half of a vacated alley to the southeast, which is lots 11 and 12 of the Inner Bay subdivision. The property is approximately 105 feet in width and 145 feet in depth for a lot area of 15,225 square feet. Lots 10 and 11 were originally platted at 50 foot in width and 145 feet in length. Also, the property has that half vacated alley to the southeast, giving it the overall width of 105 feet. The property is located 2 lots to the northeast of the South Main Street and Inner Bay Boulevard intersections, and it currently has a single-family residential dwelling that was constructed in 1976. The subject site is surrounded by detached single-family residences to the north, south, east, and west in the RS60 zoning district, and the development must adhere to all City of Tampa land development regulations at time of permitting, due to this being the Euclidean rezoning. And the conforming map is on screen as I talk about the staff analysis. The Inner Bay subdivision was originally platted in 1918 with lots that varied in width from 50 feet to 176 feet in width, with some as large as 211 feet, and depths that varied from 120 feet to 294 feet, with some as large as 435 feet. The overall subdivision, it included 8 blocks labeled A through H, And the subject property is located on lots 10 and 11 of Block C. The overall area of analysis includes the Inner Bay subdivision. The area of analysis included 385 total zoning lots. 177, or 46% of those lots, have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 208, or 54% of them, have been developed with a lot width of 59.99 feet or less. Pursuant to the review of the existing development pattern, the subject block contains 32 total zoning lots. 14, or 44% of those lots, have been developed with a width of 60 feet or greater, and 18, or 56%, have been developed with a lot width of 59.99 feet or less. The 6200 block of West Wallcraft Avenue, which is both sides of the street, contains 19 total zoning lots. 8, or 42% of those lots, have been developed with a lot width of 60 feet or greater, and 11, or 58% of them, have been developed with a width of 59.99 feet or less. The block face contains 15 total zoning lots, and 8 of those, or 53%, have been developed with a lot width of 60 feet or greater, and 7, or 47%, have been developed with a lot width of 59.99 feet or less. There were no historic landmark structures within 1,000 feet of the subject property, and based upon this analysis, staff did find the request for rezoning consistent with the existing development pattern of the area. Again, there's no waivers, and this is a Euclidean rezoning request. Therefore, the Development Review and Compliance staff has reviewed it, and we did find it consistent with the City of Tampa Land Development Code. If you have any ponderance of why we came to the consistency, please reference the findings by the Development Coordination related to the existing development pattern of the area, and staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions?
Just a clarification for the record. It's easy to confuse, but this is South Main Avenue, which is in Inner Bay, south of Gandy. And there was several references in the staff report to Main Street. So I know it's easy to mistake that, but.
My apologies, sir. I see that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's just a typo. Okay.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Good evening, Steve McElhaney, representing the petitioner on this project. I have up on the screen here an aerial photograph, so you can see all the lots that are surrounding here are already have been developed and utilized in 50-foot configurations. So the idea here is to use the underutilized land where you have existing utilities and infrastructure, where you're minimizing the cost, you're paying for any upgrades necessary as part of the redevelopment. This area is undergoing a lot of redevelopment. The staff has found it consistent, both the Planning Commission and city staff. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. I know it's a late hour, so if we're going to go through this, I can go more, or if I have any questions, I could be happy to answer. I'm not aware of any objections to this. We've received no calls, no letters with any concerns whatsoever. So it's a reasonable development pattern. We're requesting approval. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item number 15?
No one has registered to speak on this item, and we did receive public comments, written comments on this item.
Anybody at the kiosk?
No, there's no one here at the kiosk. Thank you.
Move to close.
All right, we have a motion to close from Councilman Citro. Second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any objection? Councilman Miranda, would you mind reading item number 15?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number REZ 20-77. Move an ordinance presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance rezoning property in general vicinity of 6223 South Main Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification RS60 residential single family to RS50 residential single family, providing in fact a date and finding a fact that this complies with the applicable land use policy as noted in the Planning Commission staff. And I'm not going to name them, there's about 6 of them. And the general requirement section of 27-156, Euclidean zoning, and it's not seeking any waivers from RS50 zonings.
Second.
We have a motion for Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Citro. Roll call vote.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Goods, Maniscalco,
Yes.
Viera, Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried with Goods and Viera being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 3rd at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much, council.
Thanks. All right, item number 16.
Item number 16 is file number REZ 20-78, and this is for the property generally located at 308 East 7th Avenue. The request is from Pt.2 for place of religious assembly, residential multifamily, and business professional office. I'll defer to the Planning Commission for their report, and please return to me.
You're muted, Ms. Malone.
Okay.
Still muted.
How about now?
Yes, perfect. Go ahead.
Yes, okay. 2078 is in the Tampa Heights Urban Village. It's in the Central Tampa Planning District. It's a unique request, which I'm sure Brian will speak to during his presentation. But we are east of North Florida Avenue. We have the interstate right here. There's a variety of commercial uses along North Florida Avenue, and that kind of transitions to a mixture of uses within this neighborhood. The proposal is requesting several different uses. The Planning Commission has looked into each of those uses and has found that the each option is within the allowable density and intensity limits of the residential 83 future land use designation. So it is designated residential 83, that is that very dark brown color on the subject site. The community commercial 35 is the red that is along Florida Avenue, which allows us commercial uses. The zoning is also utilizing an existing structure, so I would just point out that the comprehensive plan does support the conversion of existing buildings to provide infill housing and services, and that is supported by the comprehensive plan. So this was consistent with a number of policies, and I'm available for any questions.
Do we have any questions? Hearing none, go ahead, sir.
Okay, item number 16 again is file number REZ 20-78 for the property located at 308 East 7th Avenue. On page 1 of your staff report, you will see the waivers that are listed. There are some previously approved waivers from a few rezonings ago. REZ 1999-27 followed over, and then there's another waiver from REZ 15-38 that followed over to the proposed new 2 waivers that are presented on page 2 of your staff report. The applicant again is proposing to rezone the property at 308 East 7th Avenue from Plan Development, file number REZ 15-38 for place of religious assembly, multifamily residential, and office business professional to PD Plan Development to allow for a place of religious assembly, multifamily residential, office business professional uses. The property is located 2 lots to the east of East 7th Avenue and North Morgan Street intersection. The setbacks for the primary structure are north 20 feet, south 16 feet, east 7 feet, and west 7 feet. And the setbacks for the accessory structure are north 3 feet, south 60 feet, east 3 feet, and west 1.5. Development Coordination did request that the setback for the accessory structure be a whole number of 1 foot, and that is an additional revision that's requested between first and second reading should this be approved tonight. The maximum building height is proposed at 40 feet for the primary structure and 15 feet for the accessory structure. The property is surrounded by PD zoning district to the north with an office use, south with multifamily use, and west with single family attached use, and an office use in the CN zoning district to the east. The property is in the Tampa Heights Local Historic District and the Tampa Heights Urban Village. The property did receive a recent Architectural Review Committee ARC approval, file ARC 20-366, and that was approved on 10/8 of 2020. As Jennifer did state, there are different configurations for the uses, and through the coordination with zoning as well as the Planning Commission and the applicant, we were able to determine that it met all the requirements for the Planning Commission as well as the most intense use for the parking requirements. And that's where you're going to see that waiver, the proposed new waiver for that reduction in the required parking from 13 to 6. With that being said, there are a few one historic landmark within 1,000 feet. It's a local landmark. It's Ferris Company building located at 1701 North Franklin Street. Ordinance date is 5/19/20s 2017. Development coordination as well as transportation had site plan modifications that will be required between first and second reading. And the development review and compliance staff has reviewed the application, and we do find the request consistent with the City of Tampa Land Development Code. If you would, please refer to the findings by transportation in relation to the requested parking reduction waiver. If it is the pleasure of City Council to approve this application, there are the modifications required between first and second reading as outlined in the staff report and the revision sheet. And if you include that in your motion, it'd be appreciated. And staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Do we have any questions? Hearing none. All right, applicant. Do we have anybody here for item number 16, Flora Villa 2020?
It's Ricky Prederica. I don't know, is he virtual possibly?
Is Ricky Pederico virtual?
I do see him here.
Okay.
Hello, Council. Ricky Pederica. I'm getting this webcam set. Okay.
Wait, raise your right hand. We're going to swear you in.
Do you swear or affirm you would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Council. I have a presentation I'd like to go through. I'm going to try to go warp speed, considering the hour. If I could share my screen. If you could let me know, you can see the cover.
Now we can. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Council. Ricky Pederica with Dark Moss, and it's my pleasure to be before you presenting the rezoning for Flora Villa, located at 308 East 7th Avenue. It's in Tampa Heights, as staff mentioned, just north of Mobley Park Apartments on 7th Avenue, east of Florida Avenue. This is a view of the condition in 1915, the Sanborn map. And this is the condition of 7th Avenue in 1922. I was excited finding this, and then I realized that I think we're just outside of the frame of the view, unfortunately. As Planning Commission staff mentioned, we are in RS, or Residential 83 for high-density multifamily units up to 24 stories. We're surrounded by several PDs and a neighborhood commercial and RM24 zoned properties in this section of Tampa Heights. This is an aerial view of the property. There's several contributing structures on the block, as well as vacant lots and some large street and lot trees. This is the condition of 7th Avenue or East Vine. As was noted in 1915, street trees are still present. North Jefferson Street to the east, this looking downtown, looking south towards downtown. North Morgan Street to the west, looking north towards Palm. And East Oak to the north of the block, looking east. And this is the property, the subject property, 308 East 7th Avenue. The existing development or the existing property was originally constructed in 1905. It was referred to the Grambling House in the Florida Master Site records. We're aware of an addition that was constructed in the rear at roughly 1999. The property is 2 stories, just under 40 feet. Each story is just under 2,000 square feet, making 3,934 square feet total. It's been rezoned a few times. First, there was an area-wide rezoning from, I believe, RM24 to PD when the Tampa Heights Office Village was created on this block and half of the block to the north. And then 2013, the Meditation Center purchased the property and rezoned it to add a place of religious assembly use. This is the site plan of the existing conditions of the property. In blue is the primary structure, of which no change is proposed. In pink is the accessory structure that exists. Here is a little photograph of it, and there's a little bit of lean because of the photograph, but it is actually leaning slightly too. Oops, sorry. Without a garage, we don't have another place to put outside storage. So with this request, we wanted to be able to vest the ability to expand this, since it's a site plan controlled request, expand it slightly and less than or still with an allowable amount under the accessory structure guidelines. This is the existing driveway and parking pad. No changes proposed to that except for restriping. There are no protected trees on site, and there's no impact to off-site trees. There's several campers to the east, and the driveway exists and will not change. We've only had an arborist do some pruning at the request of our insurance agent to pull limbs off the roof. These are the existing elevations currently, and this request does not propose any change to them. As staff noted, there were several waivers, historic waivers, and they've requested the 2 waivers moving forward, a parking reduction waiver, which is really the genesis of this request of this PD. Since the 2015 rezoning added the special or the place of religious assembly use, they didn't address the parking requirements for the highest and best use that was already established, which is office. And related to that, we're requesting a vehicle use area reduction from 10 to 20 or 20% to 10% due to the existing conditions. Staff mentioned several mixed-use scenarios that we proposed that would be accommodated within the parking space reduction. And those were different blends of business, professional, multifamily, and religious assembly. Sometimes they were completely one use, like business, professional, office. Sometimes they were a mix. We just wanted to maintain this mix since we're going before, or since this not a Euclidean request. In order to offset the parking reduction request, we just want to highlight the ample street parking that's available around the block. 3 of the 4 streets on either side are extra wide, over 30 feet. I personally park on the street to set an example for my employees and tenants. Unfortunately, we can't park on 7th Avenue as it's regulated with signs. On the PD, we've also committed to enhanced bike parking standards. And we've been working with Christina Costa and Pedal Power Promoters to be acknowledged as a bike-friendly business, again, to attempt to offset the nature of this parking request. Additionally, being so close to downtown, we get the inherent benefits of the transit-oriented nature, transit-oriented development nature of downtown. And this is the property shown in relation to the proposed preferred alternative alignment for the streetcar expansion that's on the horizon. The second waiver is for the vehicle use area green space. This is the existing condition in the rear of the lot, showing the existing parking pad. And this request is basically to address the minor or the very limited green space on either side of the existing pad. Rather than remove parking to accommodate the green space, we just like to leave it as is and count what we already have. Staff requested this removal in second reading, but in order to make some of the preservation that we have requested, we also started an application for a transfer of development rights provision under section 27-141 in hopes that since we're going for a PD, and this can only be asked, as I understand, during a PD process, we wanted to include that in our request. We didn't receive any support or objections. Early in the project, I reached out to the Tampa Heights Civic Association president. We had several conversations, but the conversation didn't continue, and I'm not aware of any other discussion. So I appreciate the time and thank you for the process. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Chair.
Wait, Mr. Manassi, yes.
If I might, just a point of clarification, the TDR request does not have to be part of the PD, and that's why staff is requesting that to be removed from the site plan. The TDR can go through the administrative process per our code.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Dingfelder.
TDR is so rare. What's going on with that, Ron? I didn't catch what you were saying.
I believe originally the applicant was under the impression that he had to include that, or while he is going through this PD process, that he can include the TDR, the transfer of development rights, along with this PD process through staff review and everything else. We found that it does not need to be part of this PD, and that's why we're requesting it be removed from this PD. It's a separate process that is done through historic preservation and that manager. So that's what the applicant is working with the historic preservation manager right now to take care of the TDR rights and the transmittal of those.
Councilman, may I?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilman Dingfelder, I am not sure. I believe you might have been off council when council did amend the code to allow for the transfer of development rights. And being that this is new to city council, in particular, this is new to this city council, it may be appropriate at some point down the road, perhaps when Ms. Post and Land Development are talking about land use, maybe to schedule this as part of a discussion of city council to just know what previous city councils have put into place and what you can expect to come from it.
That'd be great.
All right, anybody else? Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on item number 16, 20-78?
No one has registered to speak on this item, and the clerk's office did not receive any written comments on this item.
Anybody at the kiosk?
No, there's no one at the kiosk. Thank you.
Move to close. Second.
We have a motion closed for Councilman Miranda, second for Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Who would like to take this? Councilman Carlson? 16.
Yeah. Do I need to pull that out, or can I just read it as it is? Read it as it is?
When you say pull it out, what do you?
TRD, is it already out of here?
Pardon?
It's not in the, I don't, I can read it like this.
Item
okay.
16?
Yeah, there's nothing in there.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion, I'd like to move file number REZ 20-78, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 308 East 7th Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification PD plan development, place of religious assembly, residential, multifamily office, business professional, to PD plan development, place of religious assembly, residential, multifamily office, business professional, providing an effective date.
And the revision sheet.
Right. There's more language coming,
waivers.
right?
Site plan modification.
And the site plan modification. Because the applicant has shown consistency with the planning commission and the city staff reports.
What do we have in parking waivers? Something was mentioned. I missed it. Parking waivers.
I mentioned waivers, I didn't.
There are waivers associated with this request. Again, let me just pull that back out. So there's two previous waivers that are outlined in your staff report on page 1, REZ 99-27. And then you see REZ 15-38, another one's rolling over section 27-238-12. Those are from previous rezonings. The two new waivers are on page 2. They're labeled 1 and 2, and that's to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 13 to 6 spaces. And then the that was 27-283.7. And then the second new waiver is 27-284.3.3, and that's to reduce the VUA green space from 20%, 340 square feet, to 10%, 170 square feet, which our request would be modified between first and second reading. I don't believe you have to read those into motion.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Carlson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Dingfelder?
Yes.
Goods? Maniscalco?
Yes.
Viera? Citro?
Yes.
Miranda?
Yes.
And Carlson.
Yes.
Motion carried with Goods and Viera being absent at vote. Second reading and adoption will be held in December 3rd at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Next,
council. Good evening.
All right, thank you. Next up is the last item.
Item 17 is file number REZ 20-79. It's for the property located at 2420 West Mississippi Avenue. The request before you is from PD for Business Professional Office to PD for Medical Business Professional Office. I'll defer to the Planning Commission, and please return to me so I can finish the report.
Jennifer with your Planning Commission, can I share my screen? This will be brief.
I don't know whether you are.
The
on
future-
screen. I'm sorry, Ms. Malone.
There it
Oh,
is.
There you go, thank you.
There you go, go ahead.
Okay, South Tampa Planning District. It is, the subject site is basically adjacent to the Solomon Expressway. There's attached housing to the south of the subject site. Generally a mix of uses. There's housing, both attached and detached, but some commercial uses. The future land use of the subject site is important because it is a SNU 6, suburban mixed use 6 future land use designation. The comprehensive plan states that this can be utilized for low intensity office infill in areas south of Fletcher Avenue, which this is, meets that criteria. And so the request is consistent with that long-term development pattern envisioned under the SNU 6 future land use designation. We did find that this request would be sensitive to the residential to the south and to the east of the subject site, and that the existing building is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood to be consistent with our compatibility policies. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions? No? Mr. Manassi.
Thank you, sir. Again, item number 17, file number REZ 20-79. It's for the property located at 2420 West Mississippi Avenue, and they're requesting to go from PD Office Business Professional to Plan Development PD to allow for the medical and/or business professional office uses. The property is located on the southeast corner of West Mississippi Avenue and South Carolina Avenue intersection. The setbacks for the primary structure are north 9 feet, south 5 feet, east 102 feet, and west 34 feet. The maximum building height is listed as 25 feet. The property is currently approved through PD, which is file number Z98-49, ordinance 98-177, and again, that's for the office business professional use. This PD does propose to add that medical use. The property is surrounded by zoning districts R01, residential office, in the north with single-family and multifamily uses, south in the PD zoning district with multifamily use, and east in the RM24 residential multifamily zoning district with a single-family use, and the west RM24 zoning district with the Selman Expressway. There are some site plan modifications required by development coordination. Transportation did find it inconsistent due to Chapter 27, 283.12. The code requires the backup length must be a minimum of 6 feet. That is a waiver requested on page 1 of your staff report. And let's see. That would conclude most of the report. The development review and compliance staff has reviewed the application and finds the request consistent with the City of Tampa Land Development Code. Please refer to the findings provided by Transportation in reference to the backup with waiver. If it is the pleasure of City Council to approve the application and the waiver identified below in the staff report, please know that there are further modifications that would be required between first and second reading, and if it is approved and you read your motion, please include the revision sheet. Staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Mr. Pressman.
Mr. Chairman, council members, appreciate your late hour here. I do have a PowerPoint I'll go through with you quickly. If you could pull that up, please. This is RZ 20-79. Next slide, please. Located in the Inter Bay area. Next slide, please. Located right next door to the crosstown on Mississippi. Next slide, please. Let me introduce Dr. Radley Griffin. Radley is a 15 years board certified family medicine. Lauren Griffin, his wife, was here earlier. She operates as the COO. And they are currently operating at a location nearby. Next slide, please. Zoning staff approves, Planning Commission approves. Existing office was approved in 1998 under Z98-49. There are no footprint changes to the site. This PD issue is for office, business, professional office, to medical and business professional office. The existing condition is a minor waiver of just a couple parking spaces that are existing and have been operational. Next slide, please. This is the site from the aerial. What you see is what you get. There'll be no changes in regard to the footprint. Next slide, please. That's how the property appraiser has it. Again, that's how the building exists. Next slide, please. This is as you'll see it on the street, and a nice street view. Next slide, please. As indicated, the site was approved in 1998 as it exists. Next slide, please. And that is the site plan at the time. Next slide, please. And this is the currently proposed PD plan, which is virtually the same thing. Next slide, please. Same exact building footprint, again, PD to PD. Next slide, please. Future land use category is SMU 6. As you know, that's a very intensive land use category, which, quote, is suitable for mixed-use projects at suburban scale, limited neighborhood commercial, residential office, general commercial. The maximum density on the site is 50% of what is allowed. So the site is far below footprint size. Next slide, please. Planning Commission notes the scale of the building is consistent with the long-term pattern under SMU 6, comparable and compatible with the surrounding development pattern. Next slide, please. Zoning Department, proposed use is appropriate in location and compatible with surrounding uses. Elevation is provided of an existing office building that is complementary to the surrounding area. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you for consideration. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put in the record a email from the abutting owner on the east, noting that they are the abutting owners. They are fully in support of the office use as present and proposed, has existed for a very long time. Facility functions well in the immediate area as a fine neighbor. All activity, office, and future, of course, will be inside. The building is a nice buffer and transition from the Crosstown Expressway, which you think is an important point. Coming from the busy Crosstown, it does act as a nice transitional use. And it's a continuation of a standing site, if I may put this in the record.
Thank you very much. Anything else?
No, we're happy to answer the questions you might have.
Do we have any questions for the gentleman? Anybody in the public wish to speak on this item number 17? Go ahead, state your name. You'll have 3 minutes to speak.
They get the Patience Award.
You've been here 6.5 hours.
Yeah, my name is Donald Lee. I live directly behind this building here. The building has been a pain in the butt because the city allowed them to put another parking lot, which was a gravel parking lot. Before, when I moved there, I've lived there 28 years in the townhouse right directly behind it. My backyard is 4 feet away from their building because the building is turned sideways, so the townhouses run down the side. You can see here. Okay, here's where the townhouses, when they were built, you can see, well, let's go with this one here. You can see the land is the same level as our land, right here. This is my backyard right here, and the building that they're talking about is right here. The land was the same level. When they built this building here, instead of doing a concrete wall, they took a cement truck along our wood slatted fence and poured rough concrete and raised that land a foot higher than ours. Here's the back fence line. You can see how the property goes way down at an angle. Behind our townhouses is a drainage ditch that handles all our water for our complex. It's supposed to handle our water and our water only. But when they did the rough concrete, this is where our slats were to our wooden fence. When our wooden fence rotted, we had to remove it. We were forced because of the concrete to move our fence in. So there went the dam that was there to block all the water. Now, every time it rains, we get all their water on our property into our retention pond, plus our water. We get flooded out. You can see here where it comes under the fence and goes into our ditch. The city allowed them to take this parking lot here. There was gravel with a huge retention pond right here and pave over it with an underground water system where the water goes in a drainage system underneath. Since that happened, this wasn't good enough, so they had to raise the front retention pond, the walls right here. They had to raise this one even bigger, so the hill went even more. So now we really get flooded out. We go ask the owner of the building, can you do anything? He goes, we did everything the city permitted us to do, so you're on your own. So we had to all go get flood insurance. On this side of the development, there's 9 townhouses. 5 of us are retired. We don't have the money to sit there and, put out for a concrete wall or whatever. It was their mistake. The city should have never let them raise the land. And now we're getting screwed about it. They have 46 parking places where they only had 10. Now they got 46. This does not belong in a residential neighborhood.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Kim Price. I'm also a resident at 2410 West Chicago Avenue, and Donald is the president of our association. I'm the treasurer and the secretary. Do you guys have the petition? Did it come as part of the package? Do you have, I don't know what you get. We put on record, uploaded as requested, a petition from all of the homeowners. We have letters that have gone into, which you should have as well. Basically what has happened is that the purpose of zoning, in our understanding, is to segregate uses that are thought to be incompatible and minimize any potentially negative impact on the community. Zoning should be used to preserve the character of a community. It should assure that anything new on a neighboring property will be in harmony with the area. It should help protect our property values and keeping incompatible or unsuitable uses away from our property. And if zoning has no meaning, then what's the purpose of instituting it? So this community has a business district 1.5 blocks away on Howard Avenue. The entity seeking the rezone has their place of business on Howard. Denying rezoning for them would have little impact on their business model or their customer base, and it would have a great impact on the residents of our community. The original owner was, the property was grandfathered when the zoning was in place, and the city allowed subsequent owners of the property to make changes that have adversely affected us 100%. They were allowed to increase the height of their parking lot. Increasing the drop-off on the northern side caused excessive runoff into the back of the homeowners' lots. Their parking lot was too small for their needs, resulting in vehicles parking on the streets, blocking visions. The embankment of their retention pond was raised as opposed to the pond being dug, further increasing runoff into our area. They take advantage of the perimeter fence that is owned by us and to which they do not contribute, but they include it in their plat drawing as if it were theirs. Their garbage, their recycling receptacles are always overflowing on the sidewalk. Their landscaping stores are overflowing in their beds, and now the property wants additional allowances. So we believe businesses should be where they belong, out of our neighborhood, and we would ask that you deny this. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from council members?
Just procedurally, I don't see the petition, Ms. Price, that you made reference to. I don't know.
I uploaded it to the city site. It was this was the letters that were written by the homeowners. Our petition, which was against the rezoning.
Does the clerk have a copy of the petition?
I mean, we did receive written comments, and it's uploaded on Sire.
Okay.
It is or is not? I'm
All
sorry.
right. Apparently they're in the record. I didn't see it in my notebook.
We were told everything that needed to go to you would be in there. So there's letters from neighbors, there's a petition, there's signatures. It just, every time there's another allowance, another crack comes in, it adversely affects us. We don't understand the reason why we are 100% residential. There's no other business. Anything
Now,
else?
Council, my understanding is, you said you did upload those, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did the petitions have any issues, any statements of fact within them? I have not seen them myself, but I'm just wondering, because generally, obviously, council, for the record, you know that a petition, in and of itself, the fact that a number of neighbors might have signed it, the length of a petition does not necessarily give it any greater weight whatsoever. It's what's the facts contained within and the evidence that's produced that upon which you have to rely your decision. Your decision has to rely upon. So the question that I have is, if council members feel the need to do that, you do have that opportunity. It is distributed and it is made part of the record, and it is received and filed at the end of the hearing, at the end of the evening. So, council, if it is something that you don't have, that you feel necessary, that may be an issue that you need to take into consideration. I have not personally reviewed them, and I don't think you have enough copies. You don't have enough copies today to be able to distribute them, do you? These are your copies.
I don't, I mean, I have a copy that you're welcome to take. I don't have one for everybody.
Well, those
but
ultimately would be given to the clerk and then uploaded.
I mean,
with council.
I mean, I did what I was asked to do, and it was uploaded on there, so.
Can I just ask, have you all talked to Stormwater or other folks in the city to see if there's some kind of remedy? What kind of answers?
The only thing that anybody told us that would remedy it would be a brick wall. I mean, just something that, you know, any other property would have already done this. They would have put a brick wall between any building, even if it rezoned to, you know, residential, which would be our preference, not even commercial, but even if it were rezoned to residential, it would require a brick building normally in that situation. Because as you can see, it just keeps getting higher and higher and higher. And we've lost, like Donald said, he lives on that side. I live across the street, but we're still affected by it just from traffic and everything else if you've been on Mississippi and Carolina. So this property over there it's just coming straight down into our property. And now our fences, we've got maybe 4 feet of fence, whereas one time we had 6.5 feet of fence. Plus we have cameras all the way along there, trained down. So.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Sorry, it's late at night. My brain's not working.
Trust me, I'm old and cranky and hungry too.
But it seems to me that for that issue, and legal stop me if I get out of bounds, but for that issue, all we're doing is adding medical to the PD, right? So
well, you're also adding medical waste. You're adding vehicles to get rid of that waste. You're also, every time we open one little tiny thing up, they said that it was 25 feet.
But just for that point for a second, so somebody could go in with some other business use, not medical, yes, and use the same exact footprint, and then the same issue would be there. So it either whoever owns that property has to fix it, or you all have to fix it, or the city has to fix it. I don't know what other choices there are.
When you say we have to fix it?
No, I'm saying the choices would be, and we're not going to decide this tonight. I'm just brainstorming. The choices are either whoever owns that property fixes it, your side fixes it, or the city fixes it. Because they could.
Well, the establishment could also, I mean, you're just opening it up to, what about an urgent center? So now you've got 100% residential. Once you open this up to medical, it could become an urgent center, it could become an emergency center, there could be ambulances in the middle of the night. Again, you are 100% residential.
If it stays a business office without medical, then the flooding problem's still there, right?
All the problems are still there, but they just open up, the crack gets bigger and bigger and bigger each time the city allows whatever happens on this property to happen.
Can I ask that? What?
Absolutely, that was going to be my recommendation.
Staff, what is this? Is a solution for this inside this discussion or outside this discussion?
It would be outside. I mean, the request before you is the use being added to an existing business office professional use. It's been through stormwater review as far as the PD process. It's been through solid waste review through the PD process.
We know that everything that was done legally, and it was done to spec. It does not mean it did not have an adverse effect to the neighboring community, which is us on the other side. Every time we ask about it, it was done right. We know it was done right.
Yeah, it
What
sounds
was
like
done
an
was done
accumulation
right.
of bad or other decisions a long time ago.
Exactly.
We gotta figure out how to solve it now.
So you can understand why anything moving forward makes us feel like all we're doing is climbing another hill.
If I may too, just to expand on what I was going to say, was the existing business office professional that is approved through per the previous PD or the existing PD, and through permitting, there are no site changes to this proposed petition before you. That's the other thing, other than I think a sidewalk connection on one of the sides that was requested by the Planning Commission to connect the sidewalk to the entrance. But other than that, the site is existing and it's been permitted as that way. But again, I just want to make for the record that stormwater, wastewater, solid waste have all reviewed this petition and found it consistent as well.
Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you. And I want to give legal a heads up. I'd like not to be interrupted on this question, okay, even though I heard what Ryan just said. Mr. Pressman and Doctor. Thank you, Ms. Price. Thank you, Ms. Price.
Oh, meaning go?
Well.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you guys aware of the this situation that the immediate neighbors are talking about? Have you been told of this previously? And is there any possible opportunity to create perhaps a little stem wall or something like that? You're not, without admitting that you might have a flooding issue, apparently 20-something years of experience next door seems to indicate that maybe there is. So is there a possibility, A, are you aware of it, and B, you got a big investment there, okay? Is there a possibility of making a very small investment with a little stem wall on the property? And you guys can confer about that, and legal can get mad at me for asking. Fine.
First of all, the good news is that if this is approved, new owners will take over the property. And myself just working with the Griffins, they're just very nice people, and I'm sure that they will work with the neighbors, which sounds like maybe that hasn't happened in the past. We did hear some of these comments. We did research into it. A pretty significant system was installed on the site to 2018 standards. Our thinking is that there's probably been very poor maintenance because it requires a lot of grates and underground storage and pipes. So talking with our engineers, our thinking was that there's probably a broke pipe or two and maintenance hasn't occurred. The other thing is, clearly, as you all know, in South Tampa, there's just a lot of water flowing. And I'm sure there's waters flowing in a lot of different directions, and a lot of it not from this property. Some may be from this property, I don't know. But the Griffins will work with the neighbors, and I've been talking with the neighbors, and again, this is something that we looked into, and I'm sure it's something we can address and make a little better.
Well, that's all fine and good, but it doesn't give us a whole lot of assurances that, you know, that something would seriously be taken on in that regard.
I would say that, you know, a short stem wall may very well aid to the situation, but it would have to be looked at with all the agencies and all the city agencies and SWIFMA and such to be sure that it's not going to cause problems on other properties or divert waters elsewhere.
So
I can't stand here and say, yes, let's put a stem wall in, because that can drastically move water to the east, or to the west, or the north, or south, and may cause problems elsewhere where this has already been evaluated. I'm not trying to defer you. We can certainly work in that direction.
Is that
but
something you could look at and report back to us before second reading?
I can ask the engineers to look at it, yes.
Okay.
We can certainly do that, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, are you calling somebody back to the lectern?
Yes, sir.
I just want to bring it to your attention that that is normally not done at a hearing. Obviously, they do have an opportunity to come back at second reading if they want to, or communicate through email between now and then, unless somebody has a specific question for somebody in the audience.
Yes, my question is, what is that picture you're holding up, sir?
There you go.
They were saying that it could be a broken.
Come up and tell us.
They've waited so long, I figured, we're at the last item.
I
so.
know, but
We're
trying
happy to
be
hear from the
consistent.
gentleman.
Well, he said it could be a broken pipe or something. It's a hill.
Just put it up there.
Water doesn't flow up a hill.
Okay, did you have to take the microphone if you had cancer or, there you go.
You can see the hill. All the water that hits that hill is going to go under our fence into our retention pond. There's no way. It can't be a broken pipe. The grade of the land, when they built the building, and then they made it 10 times worse when the city let them do the parking lot on the other side, they did the hill even bigger. So it's not a broken pipe, it's a hill, and water does not flow up a hill.
Okay. All right, the gentleman indicated that they would inquire of their engineers as a possible fix between now and second reading. Let's give them the opportunity to do that.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may respond. So what I'm indicating is that there's a system in the property of the grates and the water coming in, and pipes flow through the property, through the entire property. If those pipes are not functioning well, or if they're broken, then there's a backup. So I understand the gentleman's talking about the little hill, but through the whole property, there is piping. The piping is not working, it backs up, and water flows. So I'm just indicating, the engineers indicate that those are two possible issues.
Councilman Carlson.
Legal, tell me if this is not an appropriate question, but in a situation like this, if there is a system and there's some requirement for managing your own stormwater runoff, what remedy does the community have? Are there fines, code violations? What rules would govern that? And can we consider that?
Kate Wells, Chief Assistant City Attorney. Again, this is outside the scope of the application and council's consideration of the application, but happy to talk to staff as to what possible solutions there could be. I'm not an engineer, I can't speculate about that, but I do know that this discussion is outside the scope of the application.
So can I say this to the members of the community? I will give you my card, maybe others will. It sounds like they're volunteering to come back before second reading to negotiate with you all, and so please do that. If that doesn't lead to, once we're past this process, if that doesn't lead to a conclusion, come to me or my colleagues, and we'll help you navigate the city to try to fix it. But what the legal is telling us is we can't consider that in this conversation. We can after this process, we can try to work with you, and they're going to work with you during the process, but for today, we can't consider it.
With all due respect, Bill, they indicated they would glance at it with their engineer.
No, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
I said that the applicant is going to work with you all. We can't help you until after this process is done, but they're going to work with you, and it could be by second reading that'll be solved. Second reading, there's still one more chance for us to vote on it.
This is the first vote, there's two votes.
It'll be announced in a minute.
Yeah, we have to vote twice before something is approved or not approved. Well, if it's not approved the first time, it dies, but for final approval, it goes 2 times. Okay, any other questions or comments?
So, just in summary or 30-second rebut, again, this is PD to PD with just the medical use with new owners. All the staff support it, and we appreciate your consideration, and we'll be happy to take a look.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion to close?
So moved. Second.
Motion closed from Councilman Miranda, second from Wait.
We did receive Frank Grabowski to speak on this item, but he's not logged in.
Okay.
And like I mentioned, we did receive written comments on this item.
Yes, and I know that documents were filed to the quasi box. I pulled it up and saw it from Debbie Mercer. Go ahead, sir.
Before you close, I just want to point out to Mr. Pressman and the good doctor that there is evidence on the record in opposition to this as related to increased traffic, okay, as related to the new medical use. I realize what you're saying about the footprint, and I'm very familiar with that building, having driven by it daily for many, many years. But it's not exactly the same use, and there is evidence on the record against it. Legitimate evidence on the record against it as related to a legitimate concern, which is traffic and parking. So I'm just saying, Mr. Pressman, it's not an open and shut case.
I hear you, Councilman, I certainly do. The parking is not a question of amount, just to clarify, not to debate. The parking is not a question of how many, there's just 2 spaces that have a little short back out. I just want to clarify that, that's all.
Could I just get a legal clarification? Could legal, just for me and for the folks here from the community, could you just explain under what conditions, if we voted for it today, under what conditions could we change our vote the next time?
Kate Wells, Chief Assistant City Attorney. There would have to be evidence received during the second public hearing on this matter that would support, it would have to be competent, substantial evidence as it relates to the standard of review in Chapter 27 and received during your hearing. If this goes to second reading, if this is approved this evening, I assume second reading would be December 3rd.
And if I can follow up on that, absent that competent substantial evidence at the second hearing, there'd be no basis for you to change your vote if you're going to vote for it tonight.
Can you, Marty, just for clarification, not for folks in the audience, can you just explain what competent substantial evidence is?
Well, it's evidence, it's testimony and fact and documentary evidence it is that actually goes to the criteria within the code upon which you base your decision. You apply, it has to be competent, which means it has to be relevant and material, and it has to be substantial, which doesn't necessarily mean beyond a reasonable doubt or by a preponderance of the evidence, but what a court would find something sufficient upon which you can base a decision. And between the competency, the relevance and material, it's relevant and material to the criteria that you have to apply in the code. And it's on that basis that a court looks to see whether your decision is actually something that can be legally sustained.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We had a motion to close from Councilman Miranda with a second from Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, who would like to take this final item, item number 17? Councilman Dingfelder? Councilman Citro?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Motion to file number REZ 20-79, ordinance being presented for first reading consideration and ordinance rezoning the property in the general vicinity of 2420 West Mississippi Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification, PD, Plan Development Office, Business Professional, to PD, Plan Development Office, Medical Business Professional, providing effective date as the petitioner has met the burden of proof in compliance with Land Development Code Section 27-136, the proposed development as shown on the site plan or encourages development that is appropriate with location, character, and compatibility with the surrounding neighborhood.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Miranda.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I believe there's also a revision sheet. Did you make reference to that?
Yes, including the revision sheet. Thank you.
All right, with the revision sheet, motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Vieira, Goods, Dingfelder,
No.
Miranda,
Yes.
Carlson,
No.
Citro,
Yes.
and Maniscalco.
Yes.
Motion did not carry with Vieira and Goods voting no. Sorry, correction. Vieira and Goods absent at vote. Dingfelder and Carlson voting no.
Chairman, just like the other petition, move for this to be heard a week from, at the same time as the other petition I did earlier.
Then move to reopen the hearing.
Yes.
Move to reopen the hearing.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Miranda with the second from Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, man, we have a motion to schedule this for November 19th at 10:30 a.m.
Right.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dingfelder. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, this will be heard because we don't have a full council. 2 members are missing. So at our next regularly scheduled meeting on the 19th, which will be here at 10:30 a.m., that's the time we put on the agenda. It may or may not be at 10:30, depending on how the day is. So there's another opportunity for this, and with the full board.
And again, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up for the public, as I did the last situation that this came up this evening, I will inform the 2 absent council members of the necessity for them to review this file and the record and be prepared to vote and answer any questions or have any questions answered that they may have when they come back, so that council can be able to vote and resolve this issue as a full council.
All right. Thank you very much. And that concludes the agenda. New business from council members. Councilmember Miranda, do you have anything?
None, sir.
Councilmember Citro.
Thank you very much. I move to request, as a request by the Planning Commission, schedule a planned amendment adoption hearing for TACPA 20-01, TACPA 20-21, TACPA 20-22, and TACPA 20-23 at 5:01 p.m. on January 21st, 2021, and direct legal department to provide the city clerk with form of notice for advertising to the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Citro, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All
Mr.
right.
Chair, I request by the Planning Commission a scheduled plan amendment adoption hearing for TACPA 20-04 and TACPA 20-12 at 5:01 p.m. January 28th, 2021, and direct legal department to provide the city clerk with the form of notice for advertising the public hearings.
Second.
Motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else, sir?
Mr. Chair, request by the Planning Commission scheduling a plan amendment adoption hearing for TACPA 20-25, TACPA 20-26, TACPA 20-27, TACPA 20-28, TACPA 20-29, and TACPA 20-31 at 5:01 p.m. on February 25th, 2021, and direct the legal department to provide the city clerk with form of notice advertising the public hearings.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else, sir?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair, nothing at this time.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you for your leadership tonight. Just a quick statement. We have a full agenda next week. One of the issues that's going to come up that's going to be big is Citizen Review Board. And on the substance of it, I think that the administration is close to what the community wants. But as we discussed the last time, there are some serious charter issues that talk about the balance of power within the city. And so please, the chief of staff and others are going to brief each of us. Please make sure you all listen carefully to that and consider the long-term implications of those decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We gave a nice farewell to Mary earlier. I know I just received this letter. You guys probably got it a week ago from Roberta Mead Curry, who has been on our planning staff for 14 years. And she just, about 2 weeks ago, I guess, announced her retirement. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Roberta and wish her a happy and enjoyable early retirement. She's way too young to be retiring, but I wish her well. She's been a real asset, has served us in many capacities as a planner to the VRB and to other boards and bodies.
Absolutely. And did you follow your conflict forum from November 5th with Mr. Shelby?
Actually,
sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing that up. What happened was that Councilmember Dingfelder filed it with the clerk's office last week on November 5th, but that wasn't officially received and filed, so I'd like that to be Councilmember Dingfelder, if you can ask the clerk, even though you dated it and it was accepted on November 11th, meeting the deadline, I want that to be reflected in this week's action summary, that it was filed on November 5th, and that it appears that you've met the legal requirements, so if that could be received and filed.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of that, but if it's all kosher, that's good, and I'd ask that it be included in the record as being received and filed.
Second.
Great. We have motion to receive and file
So
from
moved. Second.
Councilman Dingfelder, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
One eye.